Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just talking to myself since I went immediately live and I haven't pulled up my Never Trump Guy video real quick. My Never Trump Guy video is missing from the studio. This happens on occasion, so I'm just going to pull up the classic video, Never Trump Guy. And then, excuse me, if there's something that we can do specifically today, if there's something specific we can do besides the Sitch and Adam content, that's fine. But I want to do the Sitch and Adam content because the narcissism of small differences mean that I will necessarily get more pissed off at Sitch and Adam being a piece of shit. If they're pieces of shit, right? Let us all stand and salute.
Running me?
I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him. I never liked him. I never racism. I'm a never Trump guy. Xenophobia. I'm a never Trump guy. Racism. I'm a never Trump guy. Xenophobia. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him.
Boost. Mike Wazowski says, cringe. I didn't know the monster from Monsters cared about politics. That's cool. Gen X says, yay. Christian Blair says, good morning. Christian Blair says, good morning. Didn't Adam say you could come on to discuss disagreements, or am I misremembering? Nah, he said that. I don't know if he means it. And what I mean by that is, listen, we're gonna vibe check Sitch and Adam right now. We're basically gonna see where they're at. I have a feeling that they'll have some like tepid criticisms of the right wing, which will be cool. It'll be cool to see them actually having tepid criticisms of the right wing. But I think that we need to, I think we need to still, quote unquote, hold Adam accountable for his
Freedom of religion.
For his takes, for his dog shit takes, and just say, hey, this was a dog shit take. Do you admit it's a dog shit take? And he can be like, nah. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you why I think it's a dog shit take. And then he can be like, nah, it's not a dog shit take. And then we can move on. Mike Wazowski, good to see you. You should debate him. Debate who? Who should I debate? If you're talking about Adam, then I'll keep my opinions to myself because they're just mean. Maybe JD's mom could see into the future. That's mean. Beef Supreme says, good morning, folks. Sacred Snow says, good morning. Good to see you. Machalismo says, Adam is a real goober. True. You should debate him. Yeah, sure. Anytime, any topic. Let's go. Hippopotaman says, have you given your take on Cam Higbee being chased off of the TSU campus yet? I mean, it's cringe. Like, I think it's cringe that, like, you know, you can't go onto an HBCU and have, like, a sane conversation. That's cringe. However, no, I can leave it there. I should be able to go into an HBCU as a conservative. We should be able to sit down and we should be able to have a real conversation. So, Hedonic Treadmill says, what's up, Grillas? Indeed. What's up? Just kind of going over where I'm at. I'm happy that I only stream 25 hours a week, because if I had to do 40 hours a week, I think I would not do great psychologically. Last night, I was on a Prime Kai panel, and the title of the panel was like, the DNC sucks. That was like the title of the invitation. Let me go ahead and double check. I'll get you. The DNC is dog shit is the exact thing. And so the whole point of the panel, in my opinion, was to say, okay, the mainstream Democrats, the liberals, are asleep at the wheel, and here's the things that they could do to actually address the complaints of the population. But as with all conversations with liberals, progressives, and leftists, what it ended up being was whose fault is it on the left for the current situation? And so the liberal, in my opinion, Pisco, or progressive, depending on the day, Pisco was like, well, the leftists can't articulate their real complaints of why they would have voted for Kamala Harris. Therefore, they're a bunch of intransigent wussies who make politics worse and make it even more incomprehensible, and they need to shut up and get on the team. That was kind of Pisco's perspective, regardless of whether or not that's what he thinks he communicated. That's what he communicated. Then, when it comes to the leftists, Ali and Prime, what they communicated, which I think is stupid, is they were like, well, we didn't vote for your gal because you guys didn't cater to us enough. And the Israel-Palestine-Gaza situation is so serious that if you don't take it seriously, you're a piece of shit and you don't deserve our vote. And then we just fought about that for like 2 or 3 hours. There's kind of a reason why I'm like I should stream it. I should stream it so I can get super chats. I should stream it. That way I have just another VOD, another piece of content. But, you know, let's just say that I don't expect those conversations to be like hyper productive. Gen X says, no, Connor. They went unannounced with MAGA gear and a sign about DEI. They got the response they wanted. Charlie got permission when he went. They went unannounced with MAGA gear and a sign about DEI. Okay. Why do you need permission from the university in order to set up a table about a political topic and you can't expect to have a sane conversation? Now, I understand like everything's hot right now. I get it. I get that everything's hot. Everything's crazy right now. So I'm not like saying like I don't understand what happened. I understand what happened. What I'm saying is in an ideal society, HBCUs, which are historically black colleges and universities, which are going to have like an 80%, 90% black student body, you should be able to go on as a conservative, even if you have shitty, stupid conservative opinions, and you should be able to have a shitty, stupid conversation. Okay? That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying it's an ideal. Okay? I'm not saying that I don't understand. I do understand. I get it. I understand why. I'm just talking about like what we should strive for as a society. And by the way, it should be perfectly, you should be able to go onto a Christian campus, like onto like an Uber private school Christian campus, and you should be able to go, hey, I think abortion is cool for XYZ ABC reasons. You know, like if the extreme left need to be patient with the far right when they're trying to conduct civil discourse, then I have, of course, expect the extreme right to be patient with the far left when they're trying to have civil discourse. It's not the craziest thing in the world. It's actually like fairly normal American lib shit take. Sorry, I'm just taking a look at somebody painted like 10,000 different Dark Eldar and all their paint schemes or whatever. So I was just looking at that real quick because I'm watching the Iron Within. I'm scripting a remaster to the Iron Within cinematic, which has Dark Eldar and Iron Warriors in it. And it's refascinated me with the Dark Eldar. Christian Blair says, to build the channel and community, we have to know when you debate, last minute notwithstanding. Sure. King Solidus says, balls on balls. True. Joe Vaughn says, something to keep in mind while watching this. ICE has been arresting Latino citizens for no other reason than they are Latino. I have Latino friends who are terrified of going outside by themselves. Yeah, and that's cringe. That's a violation of their Fourth Amendment rights. And if your Latino friends are citizens and they get arrested, then you should tell them to sue the fuck out of the federal government for false detention. Christian Blair says, most debates are not productive. Lol. I know, but we should be smarter than this at this point. Gen X says, to go in full MAGA gear, MAGA, the people that call them the N-word on Twitter, I don't think they went in good faith. I went to an HBCU law school. I lived in campus housing after BR flooded. I was fine and treated well because I was respectful. Yeah, sure. They should have been respectful, but whatever. Wowman542 says, awesome panel last night. You were definitely Pisco's older brother, desperately trying to rein him in. Lol. Dude, Pisco was on a fucking tear, dude. He was trying to win that conversation. Fashion 40 says, I live next to a Jewish university. They do not allow any type of protest nor discourse. Well, that's fucking cringe, don't you think? Jim Baker, the head of the FBI, the former general counsel of the FBI and the former general counsel of Twitter, says, Connor, I love your live schedule. You played a big part in keeping me entertained at work. Well, I live to serve, Jim Baker. I'm happy to serve you as you serve this great nation. So I think we're a little bit slower today as far as people coming in because I think Pisco's live right now. I think it'd be fucking hilarious to ape his stream, but I want to do my own content, so it is what it is. Patriarch says, oh shit, I missed a panel apparently. No, it was just last night. I just went on to... What'd I go on? I went on Prime. I just went on Prime and just sat around and worked on editing while I try to yell at Pisco every now and then because Pisco was being a dick. Sacred Snow says, yeah, I've only seen one of your debates, and it was the Econoboy panel. 95% of the time, I just randomly scroll YouTube while finding a multiplayer game and see a debate that's 75% done. Based. Conservatism, that Jim Baker isn't that Jim James Baker. Double K Baker is a televangelist who sold end of the world mashed potatoes. Well, I'm going to keep pretending that it's that Jim Baker. So Mr. Boop says, same as Jim Baker. I'm at 4:30, so this is great timing. Good. Gen X says, Jim Baker, he streams at the perfect time for me. Actually, if he went live at 5 a.m., it would be perfect. 8:30. My time is top tier. Based. All right. Well, even if Pisco is stealing our time slot and all my liberal viewers are backstabbing me, I'll respond to that momentarily, Mike Wazowski. But even if Pisco's stealing my time slot, guess what? And my liberals are betraying me. That's fine. You got the people here are the ones that I love. Everybody else can suck a whole bag of dicks. Conservative liberalism says hashtag not all. Indeed. Pisco's shtick is insufferable. He comes off as an uber narcissist. Yeah, dude, like, listen, I'm all for the debate tactics. I'm all for quote unquote linearizing your arguments. I'm all for holding people accountable for the logic chains of their ideas. But you have to understand that not every conversation is a debate, right? Not every conversation is a debate. You don't have to win every conversation. Sometimes you can just have people posit ideas to you. You can needle them. You can criticize them. You can do all that kind of shit, and you don't have to win. You can just try to like, I don't know, forward the conversation. And I feel like that was not the mode that Pisco was in yesterday. Yesterday, Pisco was trying to win, which was kind of annoying. Mike Wazowski says, don't like Sitch and Adam? Aren't you also left wing? I mean, I like Sitch a lot. I actually think Sitch is typically quite insightful. However, Sitch, but I like Stitch as well. What I would argue, Mr. Mike Wazowski, is that everybody who typically asks me that question, like, aren't you a leftist? It's like, you don't know what these words mean, okay? So just as an example, I would argue that I'm a real Republican, meaning that I agree with Edmund Burke that you should default to the status quo, but needle good, progressive, and liberal criticisms of society and integrate them over time. I would agree that I'm an environmental conservative, that I want to preserve the legacy of Teddy Roosevelt. Our natural lands are progressive. He was a progressive Republican. But our natural lands, our natural heritage, I want to preserve those. And then also, I think the Bible, even though I'm not a religious literalist, I think the Bible correctly calls humanity to be stewards of the planet. A steward is somebody who rules a kingdom while the king is away. And I think that's the way that we should rule the planet. We shouldn't view it as this like endless resource that we can endlessly exploit and abuse and not care about how we do whatever we do. No, we are stewards of the planet, which means, yes, we can use it. Yes, we can profit from it, but we need to take care of it. That's environmental conservatism. Neoconservatism, I do think that America should spread its influence through militarism and soft power to defend and spread the free world. I think that promoting the virtue of individualism, of individuals, family, and sexual morality to make a good society is good. Ask my chat yesterday if I was left wing in my sexual morals. Ask them if I had a liberal or progressive or leftist take on sexuality yesterday when we were talking about institutionalizing Bonnie Blue. And then fiscal conservatism, don't collapse the republic through debt and reckless spending. I believe in that as well. Now, maybe I think that you need to spend a dime in order to save a dollar. And there's some responsibilities of the federal government and the state governments that they just have to do. I do believe in taxation. However, like, I do think that if we keep going the way that we're going, we could destabilize the entire planet. So I believe in all these things. I like all these things. I can steelman all these things. I can articulate all these things. I believe all these things. And so if you define right wing as filleting Trump. And if you define left wing as not filleting Trump, then I think you're stupid and you shouldn't be talking about politics. But what do you know? You're a one-eyed monster from an alternate dimension. Get some says Pisco shtick is insufferable. Conservatism says hashtag not all based. Wowman542 says it's not Pisco. You're staring into the camera, scared off the early morning autists. True. Original Logo says I will fight you one of these days, Connor, and you're gonna like it. Well, dude, you said like you didn't respond to my message, and then I responded with a message where I was like, hey, if you want to fight about this, this, and this, then sure. But if you want to talk about this, just because, then I don't want to. And I don't think I got a response message from that. Groovy Harp says, good morning, my rats. I got my cog ring on at the moment, and I'm ready to roll. Based. Not with that attitude. True. The most based of the Roosevelts. True. Sydney Rock says, Connor, the best stop for people who like politics, aren't crazy, and touch grass. Relatively speaking, true. Co-signed by Captain Planet. Captain Planet was too much of a pussy, but that's fine. But still a bar to be cleared. True. True enough, I guess. Connor, yesterday, more than 5 dicks, straight to the furry farm. Or to the funny farm. Yeah. If you have more than 20 dicks, then you should take a grippy sock vacation. Conservative liberalism says, don't talk about Mrs. Blue. I don't want you to rue this day as well. True. Wowman542 says, lol, left wing can range from I want to personally drink the blood of landlords to don't be a dick to trans people. I know, right? I know. True. Coomer jail might be the most based idea. I agree, Uriel. I agree. But anyways, quick shill before we get the content cracking. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Looks like Pisco is trying to steal my thunder. Fucking lib. Fucking lib trying to steal my thunder. But that's fine. That's fine. We endure. We endure. Also, I think I do a better stream. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, dislike, all that YouTube nonsense. Super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Let's do an intro and get into the content. Yes, make asylum sexy again. Maybe not too sexy, but sure. Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and I would argue a real Republican, somebody who cares about the principles of republicanism, not just using them as a shield to excuse my bad behavior. Today, I have Sitch and Adam, a couple of gentlemen who identify as like, I don't know, they used to identify as centrist, now they're independents, now they're something. They're heterodox, okay? They're heterodox people. Now, Adam and Friended and I have beefed in the past. I think that some of his takes have been absolute dog shit in reference to the 2024 election. So as a result, we're going to take a look at where they're at in reference to lefties freaking out that they think we're on the verge of a fascist coup and right-wingers saying, yeah, but it's good though. Let's take a look.
And he comes out of the Christian nationalist movement, which I wrote about a decade ago in my book, American Fascist, The Christian Right and the War in America. It's a movement I know very well. I'm also a seminary graduate. And I think we've reached a very frightening turning point. I think that we've already seen an assault on civil liberties, on institutions, universities, the media that are tasked with maintaining.
Mike Wazowski says, I never said leftist, I said left wing. Well, I don't know. Depends on the day. I think that kids should be educated and fed. But I also think that if you bang 1,000 people, you should be committed to an insane asylum. So you tell me, Mike Wazowski.
Maintaining an open society, that will now be accelerated. I don't take any of this rhetoric lightly. I look at it as 3 phases. First, we saw those who protested the genocide attacked as anti-Semites, although a significant percentage, 20-30%, were probably Jewish. That was a way to shut down free speech. Then we saw undocumented workers being targeted and demonized.
One of these guys has a deviated septum. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but either Adam or Sitch, they're either sick or have a deviated septum, and I can hear their nose whistle. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because we did hear it yesterday. And not only did we hear it yesterday, but I can hear it when I'm on something else with Steven. I hate that his microphone is so good. He has the same microphone that I have, but he doesn't have the same noise filters. And so sometimes like you'll just hear like you can hear the nose breathing. It's crazy. But Jovan says Adam believes in the great replacement theory. Well, we've already talked about this, guys. We've already talked about this, but I'll talk about it again. It's just true that through condoms and industrialization, almost the entire world is trending towards a demographic replacement rate of 2 or less than 2. And demographic replacement is 2.15. And so what's happened is the economic models in the Western world don't work when you have such low population growth, because our retirement systems, our economies, the way that everything works is based off of perpetual growth. Okay. So, what needs to happen is a variety of things. One of the things that needs to happen is we need to use automation and robots to free up sectors of labor within the economy so we can still have a productive economy while having a decreased population, similar to the way that Japan does. That would be one opportunity. The other opportunity that Nazis have seized upon, and I don't say Nazi lightly, I actually mean like people who are anti Semitic, National Socialist, unironic fascists, is that immigrants from the Middle East and North Africa, from South America, from Central America, or whatever, they're being used as a socioeconomic stopgap in the Western world to make our economic model work. And so that's just true. The question is whether or not it's a Jewish conspiracy. My answer is probably not. What's probably happened is there's Jewish activists who were radicalized by the slaughter of their people, because a third of international Jewish population was wiped out during World War II. And as a result, they're sensitive to anti-minority rhetoric because they think that if Hispanics are on the chopping block, if Black people are on the chopping block, if Middle Eastern and North African folk are on the chopping block, the Jews are on the chopping block as well. And so a few pro-immigrant, philo-immigrant statements from Jewish activists are being used by Nazis to say it's a Jewish conspiracy. But it's not a Jewish conspiracy. It's just demographics. It's just demographics and economic push-pull pressure. So, yeah. Anyways. What does a non-leftist left-winger look like? The fuck? Are you serious? Wow, man, 542. You've been in my community too long to not know this. You've inspired a drawing. Wow, man, 542. Wow, man, 542 is a noob. And I say this with love. You check out my science fiction and Star Wars coverage. So, wow, man, 542, I love you. So this drawing is not to memorialize you as a dummy. I love you. I love you with all my heart. So I'm going to use America. I'm going to use American demographics of the left wing. Whereas like the international thing is totally different. All right. So let's do, sorry, I need to move Wowman 542 is a noob. Need to move that up here. And then I need to do one more. And so leftist, okay, so I understand that you might be a Sitch and Adam viewer. You might be a Tim Pool viewer. You might be a center-right conservatarian viewer. You might be somebody who doesn't engage in left-wing discourse a lot. But I engage in left-wing discourse a lot. I've been in... As a matter of fact, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna make one more group. Progressive. I'm gonna do one more. Liberal. Okay. Then let's do socialist, communist. All right. So this actually isn't going to be totally accurate for demographics, but let's just use it. Let's just use it anyways. Okay. Liberals. Okay. Liberals are like 60 to 80% of the Democratic Party. And liberals still believe in capitalism, mixed economy capitalism, robust but efficient social safety net, individual rights, And I don't know, add in like whatever else you want. Gay rights, POC rights, and minority rights in general are considered good as a fulfillment of individual rights. Like liberalism is rooted in the word liberty, which means like maximal human freedom. As a matter of fact, I should go ahead and put that there. Maximal human freedom. These are not leftists in the left-wing parlance. Okay? I shouldn't do maximal human rights. I should do maximal human freedom and rights. Okay? This is liberalism philosophically. And so the reason why communists and socialists hate them is because they view like the endorsement of capitalism and the endorsement of individual rights as something that props up capitalism and props up American imperialism and props up like a gay, lesbian, Muslim drone pilots. That's the joke. Like if you had a gay Muslim drone pilot who was like bombing jihadists in the Middle East and North Africa, the communists and the socialists would be like, oh, wow, this is just American imperialism co-opting liberal perspectives on, you know, individualism in order to make minorities become a part of the imperial war machine, right? That's how a leftist would view it. Whereas a liberal would be like, oh my God, we have a black Muslim drone pilot that is so fucking based, right? Then a progressive, I would say, hybrid in between of liberal and I don't even know if progressivism necessarily has an economic connotation. Like it oftentimes does, but I don't know if it does necessarily. I would say progressivism is like society is fucked up and needs to change. Minorities are currently screwed over in our socioeconomic political paradigm. You cannot be lax in the face of injustice. And so I would say like there's a shitload of progressives who are capitalists, but there are also a shitloads of progressives who might be social democrats or might be socialists. But then socialist in the Marxist sense, okay, socialism is, in my opinion, the emancipation of the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. However, in a Marxist sense, as a matter of fact, I'll put both. Emancipation of the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. And then I would say decommodification of basic human needs and workers' own means of production. That's the Marxist definition, okay? And so what I would say is socialists in general, if they're not Marxist, they want to free the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. But if they're Marxist, then they want food, water, and shelter to be free for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're disabled, doesn't matter if you work, doesn't matter if you're black, doesn't matter if you're white, doesn't matter if you're gay, doesn't matter if you're trans, doesn't matter if you're a drug addict, doesn't matter if you're a rabid, productive Chad with a 8-inch dong. You get food, water, and shelter for free, right? Because that frees you from the oppression of capitalism. And then they want workers to own the means of production, which means that there's a variety of ways that you can do that. Some socialists think that you can do that through the state and redistributive taxation. But realistically, what they're talking about is, in my opinion, like profit sharing or stock, which means that when you joined any financial institution, when you joined any economic venture, you would have a share in that organization's profits. You would own a piece of the business necessarily, and that would be enforced by the government, right? If you believe in a government. And then communism is viewed as the end goal of socialism. Marx and Engels use communist and socialist interchangeably, but communism is the goal of a moneyless, stateless, classless society, but it's also used as shorthand for anti-capitalist revolutionaries. Like, oftentimes online, people will be like, oh, I'm a Marxist, Leninist communist. And they don't mean that they currently live in a moneyless, stateless, classless society. They mean that, like, I want a moneyless, stateless, classless society, and I will do so through vanguardism, which is effectively like revolution. And so in left-wing parlance, if you're in Twitch and YouTube, if you're in Twitch and YouTube politics or online politics and you talk to these people, then this socialist and communist is leftist. Okay? This is leftist. Whereas this thing, which includes progressives and liberals, this is the left wing within the United States of America. Let me move. Can I move this? Yeah, I can move this down here. And then let me continue my drawing all the way to the end. Let me finish this for left Wowman 542, who I love, by the way, okay? I made a drawing for Wowman 542. I should have put on my Bob Ross wig, but I don't have it yet. Left wing. Left wing in America includes liberals and progressives. Leftist is exclusively socialists and communists. Okay? So you are immortalized, Wowman 542, not because I hate you, but because I love you. Left wing versus leftist. Wowman 542 is a noob. Boom. There you go. You're welcome. You're digitally immortal now.
As criminals and all this kind of stuff as a way to build Trump's version of the brown shirts, this rogue paramilitary group, ICE, with all of these.
Yeah, Rachel P. says, Tim Pool was talking like the left wing is trying to start a war so dumb and dangerous. Listen, man, Phil Labonte and I, we went shooting together. I think his political takes are dog shit a healthy chunk of the time, but I like him as a person. Dude, he's a heavy metal rocker, or at least he's a rock and roll star of 30 years ago who is still relevant today, still makes music today. He loves guns. He loves freedom. He loves America. He's just got some like cringe, contrarian right-wing takes. Like he effectively says that he's like, in person, he's like, I'm a Democrat except for guns, but the left wing's been pissing me off. And so that's who Phil Labonte is. And I like Phil Labonte. However, he's sweeping for Tim Pool doing exactly the bullshit that you're talking about, where he's like, the whole left wing wants a civil war. And it's like, fuck you, Tim. You're part of the problem, right? Tim's been nice to me. Phil Labonte got mad at me for saying, fuck you, Tim. But realistically, if you're going to try to gin up your audience and gin up your part of the internet, that way eventually there's even more terroristic violence within our current society. And if you're asking like a brunch wine mom is the same as a black bloc Antifa terrorist who's pipe bombing FBI buildings, you're a fucking idiot. Right? You're a fucking idiot. So, you know, I hate to say it. Tim's been very nice, but he's a part of the problem and he's being dumb as shit or disingenuous as shit. Christian Blair says, but does she get conjugal visits? Yeah, sure. From one guy, her husband, which is you.
Detention centers. I mean, the budget is now larger than all federal law enforcement agencies combined. ICE, these detention centers are not going to be exclusively for undocumented workers. And now we're seeing the radical left demonized to shut down individuals and organizations that dissent from our the rapid.
Jovan says, yeah, Adam believes Democrats are trying to replace white people to get more votes specifically, which is funny because the second that the Republicans figure out that they can just appeal to Hispanic conservatives, the game is over. So I don't know what you want me to do.
Consolidation of this police state or authoritarian state.
I want to go back.
Hey, we just
Aggressive Goose says, if you really think Adam believes in the great replacement theory, you're an R-slurred DGGer. Groovy Harp says, I'm not a Nazi, but I have about 100 books about Nazis. Their wars in Nazi Germany. I just find it fascinating. Best. Gen X says, man, that debate last night was AIDS. It was AIDS. It was AIDS.
he lays it out pretty succinctly, right? Okay.
Right.
We've got all these ICE detention facilities. We've declared Antifa a terrorist organization, right? It's just a matter of time before we start arresting American citizens and incarcerating them in these detention centers, right? He's basically building the concentration camps.
It makes
American
sense.
fascism.
It
We're
makes
on
sense, Adam.
We're on the brink.
I don't know why you're making fun of this. It makes perfect sense. Okay. It's like when you buy a hammer and you're like, I bought this new shiny hammer. I have to use it on something. Okay.
Mike Wazowski says, I was confused before what your ideology was because you explained Tim Pool. Yeah, imagine a Republican before they lost their fucking minds. Okay? That's what I am. And I'll vote, in order to save the Republic, I'll vote for anybody who's pro the Republic. So if it's a moderate Democrat versus like a MAGA Christian theocrat revolutionary, I'm going to vote for the moderate Democrat. If it's a moderate Republican versus like a Zoran Mandami revolutionary socialist LARPing dickhead like Hassan Piker or Zoran Mandami, then I'm going to vote for like a Romney Republican. It just depends on whoever is actually going to stabilize our society and preserve the Republic of the United States. That's who I'm going to vote for.
Okay. They're going to build these sparkling new
Hold on. This is actually a great idea. Conservative liberalism says we need a, you might be a redneck style shtick for leftists. If you've ever worn a Che Guevara shirt while unironically championing the rights of gay people, you might be a leftist. Dude, like I wouldn't do that. I don't have the brain power to make a you might be a leftist segment, but I swear to God, that would actually hit on YouTube. Like if you made a if you order kale by the pound, you know, like while drinking, you know, a Starbucks latte laced with blood diamonds, you might be a leftist. Like that's, I see the pattern. I see how you could do it. I just don't have the skills to do it.
Gator Alcatraz. It's they're like, listen, we took all the undocumented illegals, we put them in there, but now we ship them back to their own countries. They're just sitting there. They're crying out to be used. We need to put people in there quickly. Get Antifa, shove them in there.
Didn't Hitler go on and on about Jewish people long before he ever gained power?
Well, right. So hold on. Jersey Hammer says, and the left does the same fucking thing. George Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, Rand Paul, and Donald Trump are all same in any left person's eyes. I don't think that's true, Jersey Hammer. But I do agree with you that as I was coming up, Mitt Romney was a fascist. George Bush was a fascist. John McCain was a fascist. Rand Paul was a fascist. And I think it really did take Donald Trump for like the left wing to realize how hard they were crying wolf. You know what I'm saying? Say what you want about George Bush and the war on terror and his like erosion of civil rights of other people, but there's no way that George Bush would like overthrow the Republic of the United States. I was not worried about George Bush not stepping down from power. I really wasn't. Same thing with John McCain, Mitt Romney, Rand Paul. I think every single one of them would get elected, follow the rules of the Republic, and step down from power as necessary. Whereas Donald Trump has proven that he's not the same.
He did.
Wasn't he openly giving speeches?
He wrote a book about it when he was in prison. Yes.
Yeah. Well, was he in prison for the beer hall putsch, where he basically got a bunch of business people together and at gunpoint tried them to mutiny against the government and put him in charge?
Which, by the way, I was impressed with Adam actually, you know, remembering and being able to accurately regurgitate, you know, like some German related history, which is based, but he's about to make it cringe. In case you thought like, oh, damn, Adam read a history book and he remembered some stuff. That's cool. Don't worry. He's going to fuck it up in a second.
Yes.
That's how he got incarcerated.
Yes.
That seems like a far cry from January 6th to me.
Busted out the brooms. Busted out the brooms immediately. Hey, do you remember the beer hall putsch? Yeah, well, that's worse than January 6th, right? Sweeping Adam friended. Get out your fucking push brooms.
It's a lot more on the nose, as the kids say.
On the nose.
Yeah.
That's the part of January 6th that's always missing for me, where where he actually commandeers the military. Now, if he pulled out the military and started confiscating voting
You'd
machines,
be
I think
like,
oh,
yeah.
this is very, this is
Hold on, but this is fucking silly, okay? Cameron Mosley says problem with liberalism is minority rights are unneeded because the Constitution applies to them as well. Cameron Mosley, my parents were born in 55, approximately 55, plus or minus 2 years, okay? They were born in 55. They were born before desegregation. You understand that, right? Like private businesses, which you could argue is constitutional if you wanted, but large swaths of American society were cut off from Black people just through virtue of their skin color. A Black person walks into a candy store to buy their family some candy, and the worker, the owner or the cashier in the 50s and 60s could just walk up to the Black person and say, "Hey, we don't serve Black folk. Please go back to your side of town." And that was legal, and that was normal, and that was, in my opinion, immoral, right? To quote Martin Luther King Jr., judge not a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Okay. So you can say, oh, well, you know, we should have freedom of association, and integration and desegregation are technically unconstitutional, and Black people can build their own candy stores and all that kind of bullshit. But you know what? Maybe this is liberal of me. Maybe this is progressive of me. I think that Black people should be judged off the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. And if they want to go into a store on the predominantly white side of town and they want to shop there, they should do so unmolested. And if it requires some level of government intervention to say, hey, if a Black person comes into your store and they're not committing a crime, you have to serve them, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I think that whatever contradictions in reference to like libertarian free association constitutionalism, whatever that violation is, I don't know if I care. I think we're serving broader justice by serving our fellow Americans, even if there's some immutable characteristic or some sexual preference that we dislike. I think that we should, we should serve them. We should help them. We should view them as fellow citizens. So, yes, some liberal ideas, some progressive ideas are necessary.
pretty close to the situation in Nazi Germany.
Right.
But none of that ever happened. So hopefully Trump will stay on the right side of the law here. Although they're going out of their way to characterize him as doing everything illegally.
So, well, there were two things that this guy, and we're going to go back, I assume. I haven't seen this video. We're going to go back and watch.
Hold on. Sorry. I keep responding to chat because you guys are more interesting than Sitch and Adam. Not that I'm not interested in the content. I am interested in the content, but you guys are coming up with some interesting points. Simon Simple says, progressive is interesting term. Who defines what progressive, and will all follow be taken with or some spot out? Well, Simon Simple, because I have 3,000 IQ and the 100 people who have shown up to my chat so far all have 100 IQ, and the 50 of my traders will be remembered, and I'm writing their names down right now. But you're saying like who determines what's progressive, right? Progressivism, in my opinion, isn't like a set of policy prescriptions. It's like a temperament. It's like an idea. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is if you're a conservative and you're following the Burkean calculation, then you default to the status quo, and then you only integrate progressive and liberal ideas that make sense. That's the conservative standpoint. It's a negotiating position at any point in time. You could be a conservative 500 years from now. You could be a conservative 1,000 years ago, and your policy prescriptions would be way different because of where the status quo is within society. What progressives, similar with progressives will say, here is where we are, but here would be a more just society. Let's push towards a more just society. And that's kind of the way that they view the world, is that they're just like, shit sucks, let's fix it. Now, sometimes they want to fix things that aren't broken, and sometimes they think something is broken even when it isn't, and then they totally fuck shit up. So you have to be aware of that.
Watching this whole video, or you just want to show that one clip?
Oh, we can watch some more, but it is
Okay.
this video is so incredible because this is
Sam said I look for the drawings. I need to post more drawings.
Scott Adams 2 movie situations, and the 2 movies are just, I mean, we're getting to the climax of each of these movies,
Mhm.
and
Right.
it's pretty insane. I don't see how these two worldviews aren't going to collide in some fashion. So something has to give, right? Hopefully it's resolved.
Nice. Congratulations to S. Hey, Connor. Hope you're having a great day. My son turns 5 today. I can't even believe it. Congratulations, bud. It's one of the best feelings in the fucking world. One of the best feelings in the world is it's very bittersweet for those of you who aren't parents. When your kids grow up and they hit milestones, you're so proud of them because they're hitting milestones, but you have this like twinge of sadness because you can't get back the things that they've already accomplished. Like my second son is 2 years old right now, and it's so fucking funny seeing him like jumping off of furniture and giggling and laughing and cuddling his mom and playing with toys and making airplane noises and saying weird silly shit. Like it's such a magical part of being a parent. And so every time that he grows up a little bit, I experience insane like swelling of pride within my chest because I'm so happy and so proud of him for growing. But simultaneous to that, I feel like an almost equal sense of sadness that he's moving on, you know? And I think that's what parenting is. It's like realizing that you're not the main character, realizing that you're just a character in someone else's story, realizing that time is going to move on without you, but also like being really happy and really proud that that is happening, but still having that pang of sadness. And it's incredible. I think it's one of the deepest human experiences that you can have is being a proud and loving parent. I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever experienced.
Peacefully, politically, with our words, not with violence. And
Yeah.
Ooh, Sean Kaplan brings up interesting content. Yeah, sure. I'll cover that after we do the Sitch and Adam content. That sounds good. Ezra Klein versus Ben Shapiro. I like both of them. I think that's good content. Maybe I think covering the coverage might be a little bit much, but I'll add that as my second segment.
But these two views of the world cannot coexist. They can't. It's impossible.
There are two issues in terms of what he was talking about. I would want to address. There's the Christian nationalism claim, and then there's the brown shirts claim. On the Christian nationalism front, I did see a clip. Now, I don't know. Maybe Charlie Kirk was lying. Maybe there's other clips I haven't seen. I have not seen anyone produce them. But I did see a clip of Charlie Kirk arguing with someone who was on the right. He was doing one of his like little speaking things, and there's someone asking him questions, and they were criticizing Charlie Kirk, saying, "How dare you have gay Republicans be involved in your movement because being gay is a sin according to the Bible," and blah 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 blah. And in that thing, when Charlie Kirk was defending,
Potter, my black socially conservative mom mostly votes Democrats and likes Joy Reid. I think she hates white people. Any advice? Nope. No advice, brother. No advice. If she's over the age of 40 or 50, you're fucked. That's just going to be her perspectives until she dies. Listen, that's why God made us mortal, okay? Is so our cringe can die with us. All right? Dennis Mannix already go red. They went pretty fucking red. Silver for 5. So sorry to hear about your diagnosis. I also have AIDS from that panel last night and wish my mom snorted Tylenol like other moms. True. No, but unironically, like, no, I don't have any advice for changing black women's minds. Are you crazy? Try to change a black woman's mind. That's fool's errand. Fool's errand.
the idea of, he personally is not in favor of gay marriage, but was defending working with gay conservatives. He specifically said that we don't live in a theocracy. America's not a theocracy. And, you have to follow the Constitution. And he specifically said that, doesn't know why the speaker was so bothered by what people do in the privacy of their own home. So now maybe he's changed. I don't know what year that clip was. I don't know if any of his opinions have changed, but I did see that clip. I have not seen a Christian nationalism clip provided to me that would make me feel that Charlie Kirk was in favor of Christian nationalism, which, by the way, would mean, because it's kind of a nebulous term, would mean that you support the idea that America should be a theocracy that is governed by the New Testament and the Bible rather than governed by, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, separation of church and state, and all those things that America's been governed by for the last 200 plus years.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with what Sitch is saying that 90% of the clips that I've seen is Charlie Kirk deferring to Christian conservatism. That's what I would call it, to differentiate it from Christian nationalism. I think Christian nationalism is largely used as a term for Christian theocracy, effectively a society that is predominantly Christian, defers to Christian morality, defers to Christian scripture, and enforces that scripture. Andrew Wilson said that that is not the kind of Christian nationalist he is. But then if he's deferring to the largely secular Constitution of the United States, I wouldn't call him a Christian nationalist. I would call him like a Christian who is an American nationalist. So I think Andrew Wilson is playing word games in reference to referring to himself as a Christian nationalist.
Part of the insanity in all this is they're making Charlie Kirk out to be something he's not. So there are obviously figures on the right who would jump at the chance for America to be a theocracy. Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, they're far more down that path. So
yeah, or even Jack Posobiec.
If you tried to insurrect your government, you might be a leftist. I think you said the opposite, but I like mine better.
Who was, on Charlie Kirk's podcast and was his co-host. I mean, he has made several comments about the only way to save America is to reestablish Christianity in the government. And you say, okay, well, what does that mean? It's kind of like, I don't know what that means, but all right.
Right, yeah.
But again, just because Jack Posobiec said it and he was on a podcast with him, I don't think it's fair when Charlie Kirk has explicitly said the opposite of that. Unless someone can show me he changes his mind, I don't think it's fair to throw that at Charlie Kirk. I mean, obviously
if we cry wolf for a long time and still end up being right, then what's the problem? Nobody fucking believes you, Cacode. Cacode. If you want me to pronounce your name correctly, then you need to write out the pronunciation. But what's the problem? The problem is that you said that Republicans were fascist for 20 fucking years. And so now you look pretty, baby. I want to smooch you, kiss your face. Cool. Based. All right. So as a result, now we have somebody who actually tried to overthrow the government and, do the false elector scheme and, all this authoritarian bullshit. And now you're like, he's a fascist. And then the Republicans, because they're so used to you calling Mitt Romney a fascist, they're like, oh, you just call everyone a fascist. Ha ha ha, honey. You're so cute when you use the F word. That's the problem, Cacode. That's the problem when you call Sitch and Adam fascists. Okay, Sitch is not a fascist. He's like a centrist, contrarian liberal who criticizes the left a little bit too much compared to how much he criticizes the right. He's a fucking centrist, in my opinion, even if they don't like that word anymore. Then with Adam, in my opinion, Adam's an idiot. So he's not a fascist. He's just dumb. Okay? So yeah, you're crying wolf. Sweep, 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 sweep. True.
Do a podcast and we disagree on a lot of issues. So it's not fair for any of us to be held to the other person's positions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Things can deteriorate fast in my estimation. So while I don't think Christian nationalism is a remote threat at the moment,
yeah,
it depends upon, like, if things deteriorate into a one-party state, oh my God, Christian nationalism is totally on the table. But this is a situation where I feel like people are LARPing themselves into this. Like this guy here, he's like, he characterizes everything as fascism. when I mean, enforcing the law is fascism now, right? Enforcing immigration law is fascism. Of course, he's saying, look, it's not about the immigration law. It's sooner or later those detention centers are going to be used on American citizens. He believes that shit.
Right. Yeah. And I want to get to that because that's the second point. But just going back, to the Christian nationalism thing for a second, it's Matt Walsh is trying. It seems like Matt Walsh is trying to set himself up to be the destiny of the right in terms of like him saying the.
How far am I behind? It's 10:40 right now, and I'm reading your chat right now at 10:30, so I'm 10 minutes behind.
Incendiary thing to rile up his side, but to just prove the other side correct in a very stupid way, in a very obnoxious way. Because Matt Walsh posted this on.
All right, quick shill time because we're starting to breach into the 120s right now. Hey, you 30 fucks who came in the past like 10 minutes, okay? Don't think that I don't know who you are. Well, I actually don't know who you are. But at the same time, don't think that I'm not insulted by you, okay? Pisco's live, so you betray me. You go to Pisco, you hang out in Pisco's chat until he's too boring, so you come over to my chat. Don't think that I don't know that you betrayed me. You betrayed me, you 30 fucks. I see you. But anyways, quick shill. Like the stream. Oh, see, one of them ran away. Fucking pussies. Like the stream. Share it with your friends. Engage with chat. Super chats if you got them. Memberships if you got them. I parasocially love you. Thank you for being here.
He said leftists are enraged by the spectacle yesterday. You're talking about the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service. They are calling us Christian nationalists. They say we want to usher in a new era of Christian nationalism. They claim that we are more radicalized than we've ever been, and they're 100% correct on all counts. So he is saying that actually, yes, they, being the right, wants to usher in Christian nationalism into the country.
Right. Okay. So Matt Walsh is basically signing off on the idea.
Yes.
Yep. And Matt Walsh is such a fucking pussy, dude. Matt Walsh is such a fucking pussy. Watch this. I think I did it today. So, oh, hold on. He's got another one. The founders wanted unity and peace among all the various Christian denominations. Islam wasn't anywhere on their radar screen. They were basically zero Muslims in America when the Bill of Rights was written. It didn't factor into their calculations. Oh, let's burn the Constitution because I'm scared of Muslims. Matt Walsh is such a fucking pussy, dude. I'm sorry for using heated gamer language. But what a fucking loser this guy is. The mayor of Dearborn, Michigan is Abdullah Hamoud. The guy running against him in the mayoral race is Nagi Almudegi. The mayor's chief of staff is Zaneb A. Hussein. The police chief is Issa Shaheen. He oversees the commander of the patrol division, Madhu Bazi. The public health director is Ali Abazid. Don't forget city council members Kamal Al-Sawafi and Mustafa Hamoud. Question, is this what the founding fathers had in mind? That's a question that the residents of Dearborn can consider as they awake at 5:30 a.m. to the Muslim call to prayer blasted over loudspeakers by their local mosque. They can keep thinking about it as they get in their cars and drive to work down Osama Siblani Street. Is this America? If the entire country resembles Dearborn in 50 years, in what sense will America still exist? Well, if they let, number one, I'm not for unfettered immigration from the Middle East and North Africa. I do think that there are cultural differences between the average person in the Middle East and North Africa and the average American. However, do I give a shit that one city in a country of 330 million is predominantly Muslim? No. And I think that if Matt Walsh wasn't pusillanimous, we could go have dinner with Abdullah Hamoud and Nagi Almudegi and Zanib A. Hussein, and we could go to the local shawarma place. We could go to the local kebab place. We could hang out in downtown Dearborn, and there might be some homeless junkies and all that kind of stuff, but I would be more worried about the homeless junkies than I would be about the normie Muslim walking up the street. Okay? This is still America. We still have the Constitution. We still have the due process of law. And even if there's an ethno-religious enclave, there's a 99% chance that 99% of the people within that ethno-religious enclave are chill as fuck and cool as fuck. And so I challenge Matt Walsh, if he wants to not be such a fucking pussy, to let's grab some cameras, let's go to Dearborn, Michigan, and let's have some fucking shawarma with Abdullah Hamoud. Let's go have some fucking kebabs with Nagi Almudegi. Let's go, walk the streets with Ali Abazid and let's see how much of a fucking nightmare, you know, a bunch of Muslims praying at 5:30 a.m. is. And by the way, shouldn't this be encouraging to like religious conservatives? Shouldn't this be encouraging that they could probably go start like a predominantly Christian city and have like the bells ringing at 6 a.m. for early mass? Like, couldn't they go create an ethno-religious centered community that celebrates their religion openly? What a pusillanimous coward Matt Walsh is. Scared of his own shadow, scared of normie Muslims, scared of being a man. This guy is not a real person. He's not a real person. He's walking talking points. He's talking points for groypers who are too scared to be groypers. That's what he is. He's groyper light. He's Nick Fuentes light with infinitely more cowardice than Nick Fuentes. What a fucking douche. Again, sorry for using such potty language. This is a family show, but I'm grumpy today, so my apologies.
Now, I watched the memorial service in its entirety yesterday. I did have it sped up, obviously, because it was like 5 hours, but I did watch it in its entirety. With the exception of like the end of Jack Posabik's speech, there's like a bunch of speakers, like 20, 30 speakers, maybe. Majority of the speakers.
Sorry, I got to share this. Well, QC John says, Connor, it really sets in that you're no longer the main character when your daughter goes from being a daddy's girl to hating your guts automatically on her 12th birthday. Yeah, I bet that hits hard. Yeah, Eben, Sitch is the caretaker for Adam Fredden. True. Govin 00 says, we should go towards Hedges away from Adam, bitch, Shapiro, and who the F ever else is in our diet. Sure. Silver for 5. This is the one I already read, but I'm going to read it again. Sorry to hear about your diagnosis. I also got AIDS from that panel last night and wish my mom snorted more Tylenol. True. Judge a man not by the color of their skin, but by how impossibly dense they are. True.
Totally fine. Totally reasonable. Standard memorial service stuff you would talk about, that you'd hear about. Some people... I think some people gave this weird take where they said that they kind of said that they felt uncomfortable because a lot of the talk is about Christianity. And I'm like, I'm not Christian, but I understand that this guy...
Oh, there we go. We actually have some Christian nationalist quotes from Charlie Kirk. There is no separation of church and state. It's a fabrication. It's a fiction. It's not in the Constitution. It's made up by secular humanists. Definitely a Christian nationalist. I'll take that. But this is the question. Okay? So we have the Constitution of the United States. We got the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, 14th Amendment, 22nd, and 12th. Those are all, and 8th. Those are all relevant to our current national discourse. And it's not whether or not the other ones are important. I'm just talking about, the ones that are relevant to our current national discourse. So, you're saying, so here's the question. The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. The Bible does not supersede the Constitution of the United States. If the Constitution says no cruel and unusual punishment, which means that you can't kill sodomites and homosexuals with rocks, and the Bible says you should kill homosexuals with rocks, then the Constitution wins out, right? That's the way our society works. So the question is, was Charlie Kirk the kind of Christian nationalist who would say, well, I think that God's law is supreme, so I'm going to live as if the Bible's law is supreme. However, I understand that not everybody believes what I believe in reference to my faith. Therefore, I will defer to the Constitution in reference to American society. Or does he say the Constitution is wrong because it's not following Scripture? Therefore, we need to repeal and replace the Constitution of the United States until it's more in line with Scripture? Or does he say we need to destroy the Constitution entirely because it's not a scriptural document and secularism is a lie? Because I would view the most recent thing I said as the most extreme. I would view the second thing that I said as pretty fucking extreme, but it's within the bounds of the Republic of the United States. And then I would view the first one as pretty fucking normal, right? If you defer to the Constitution, but you're a hardcore Christian, that's super normal. If you want to repeal and replace the Constitution in order to turn us into a Christian theocracy, I think you're an extremist, but you're allowed to participate in free society. If you're somebody who's like a revolutionary Christian theocrat, I think you're a piece of shit, and I think you should be ostracized. So, yeah. So what kind of Christian nationalist was Charlie? That's the question.
I was very Christian, and he, was killed, and it's a memorial service. Obviously, a lot of Christian talk is going to come up in the conversation. Like, to me, the people that feel uncomfortable just people talking about their religion, even if they're government officials, is stupid, especially in this context. Like, if they're talking about it in,
totally agree.
Yeah, like if they're talking about it on the floor of Congress when they're passing legislation about how
Key code is like Key from Dragon Balls because he's pretty much Goku. Gotcha. And by the way, I will be mispronouncing. I've been looking for opportunities to say the word Dragon Ball Z. But what's so funny is my son was telling me about Dragon Ball Z. And I was like, wait, how do you spell that? And he was like, Dragon Ball with a Z at the end. And so for the rest of the conversation, I just called the Dragon Ball Z. I just called it Dragon Balls. And my son was laughing so hard he was crying. So please bring up Dragon Ball Z whenever you can. That way I can call it Dragon Balls.
they need, God and the law. I'd agree with you. But at a fucking memorial service for a guy who's incredibly Christian, you should expect that talk. And I think it's weird I think it's stupid if people are like, oh, I don't like this. So most of the conversation, most of the memorial speeches people gave, totally fine.
By the way, don't think I don't see you fucking 50 traders coming in late. Did Pisco go off? Did Pisco end his stream? Pisco's hour. I'm gonna be mean. I'm gonna call out my 50 fucking live viewers who just came in. Where's Pisco's hour? Is he still live? Wow, you fucking traitors. You fucking traitors. Pisco's streaming until fucking 5 in the morning or whatever the fuck. That's fine, actually. That actually means that he was live for a super long time. Never mind. Never mind. You guys are showing your loyalty to your liberal dad who was awake all night. Never mind. I rescind my criticism. But don't think that I don't know that you love Pisco more than me, you fucking traitorous fucks. Don't think I don't realize.
I didn't see really any problem with them. The only ones I saw kind of were like, oh, was, obviously Stephen Miller's was ridiculous, but he just seems weird. Like, you just look into his face. He has that kind of, that very vibe of like autistic evil person. I don't know what's up with him. I think the Trump administration would be much better with if he was just not included in it whatsoever.
What did you not like about that's one of the few speeches that I listened to, just because obviously everyone was talking about it. But
most of the people's speeches were focused heavily on remembering the good that Charlie Kirk did in the world and how
Frozen Knight says, I went there first. He was boring within a minute. Thank you for admitting it, Frozen Knight. But I'm going to add you to my list. Rob F says, you have no proof. You're going on the list. Vorpal the Fox says, laugh my ass off. He knows. See? I fucking know.
their lives were positively impacted by Charlie Kirk. There, a lot of people would tell. This is like a very classic thing. You see a memorial service. A lot of people would tell stories about how they were in some low point in their life, and Charlie Kirk would help them, their family, help them get through the times, and be very inspirational, or literally provide aid in the form of money or medicine or emotional support, all those other things, and how he was just trying to make the world a better place. And that was the focus of, I'd say, like 95% of people's speeches, which is good. What do you expect? Stephen Miller's conversation was focused almost primarily on the fact that they're enemies and forces of evil that we must destroy, and our ancestors built this.
Thinking mechanically says, I didn't come from Pisco stream, Connor. Thank you. I was watching Glenn Kirshner, then saw you were live, so thought I'd drop in. Jesus effing Christo.
This country, and our country is being invaded by some nebulous group of people, and it was all just so like.
Shaved Dog Butt says, good morning, handsome man. Did you drink your coffee, take your meds, grunt one out? Okay. So, I have not had my morning constitutional, if that's what you're referring to. I did take my meds, and I did drink my tea, my black tea. I do double black tea, so I do 2 bags. I basically make a black tea latte, so I have milk and sugar. and then I refill it once, you know, so I drink all of it. Then there's the 2 tea bags. I refill it with hot water again, and then I drink that again. I have had that, but it's just been a busy week, man. It's just, I've been working on Warhammer. I've been working on the guns. I've been working on streaming. I've been working with other people on back end shit. So it's just been a busy week. So if I seem a little bit like extra grumpy today, my apologies. But anyways, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them. Thank you to Silver and Fashion 40 for your super chat so far. And Fashion 40 says, your son is based for liking Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, and he's very young. He's going to get more into it. He's going to get more into it. He just saw like some YouTube clips and he thought it was cool. He hasn't even actually watched the show yet. Veds Neil says, to be fair, or to be honest, Dearborn is a fucked Islamic conservative town. Well, let's go hang out. Let's go get some shawarma. Let's go get some shawarma. Not a Robot says, Connor agrees with the underlying point Walsh makes, but just hand waves it is no big deal because it's not a problem for him yet. Not a Robot talking like a robot. No, I'm not a fucking pussy. Okay? I'm not a pussy. I'll go hang out with Muslims. I'll go hang out in fucking Egypt. I'll be surrounded by Muslims. I'll go hang out in Turkey. I probably would. I might even go to like Lebanon. I would go to like downtown Lebanon. Now, I won't be going to Benghazi. I won't be going to Libya. I won't be going to Tunisia. I won't be going to Morocco. I won't be going to Afghanistan. I won't be going to Pakistan. I won't be going to... I could probably go to Saudi. I could go to Qatar. I could go to Oman. There's safe places in the Muslim world and there's non-safe places in the Muslim world. And even the safe places have crazy shit pop off every now and then. But the point that I'm trying to make is that 99% of Muslims are not the fucking jihadist theocratic fucking freaks. They're normies. So this whole thing where there's like a Muslim majority community and you shit your fucking pants is cringe. It's cringe. It's cringe and you should stop being a pussy. That's what I'm talking about. Ved Sunil says, these people in Dearborn are the same as MAGA-tards. They would get along swimmingly. Just bring up gay people and trans. Dearborn is still not a chill place for gay people. Well, I'm not gay. So yeah, so could gay people go do what I do? Could you be wearing like booty shorts, golden booty shorts, cover your body in sparkle, put nipple tassels on, and ride your roller skates down downtown Dearborn? Probably not. But could you be a Dave Rubin gay and just not talk about your sexuality and probably hang out and be chill? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I'm not gay. I could go hang out.
Fight, like evil, evil, evil. We must fight against some sort of great evil on the horizon without really naming or categorizing what this evil is, which kind of creates this like nebulous, are we talking about foreigners? Are we talking about the left? Are we talking about Democrats? What exactly is going on here? And to me, bringing in such negativity and hatred into memorial service that's not the place to have that conversation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree. There is evil in the world that we must.
All right. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, guys. Jesus Christ. Listen, I love the yap. These motherfuckers love the yap. Holy shit. They got like a 20-second clip and they're still yapping. Good God. Play the clip, fellas.
Fight to me is sort of just kind of.
Oh, still going. All right, here we go. Next clip. Holy shit. That was like a 10-minute diatribe off of one clip.
And even AOC's comments despicable. Though I think there are some rules about that they can censure people for attacking directly other people with some sort of, personal statements. And I don't know what the criteria is for that. But before we watch this clip, I just want to say regarding the second point that guy said about the whole brown shirts thing, this kind of came up in the soy pill conversation where it's like, okay, well, we have to fight against the National Guard in DC because it's really going to lead.
Yeah. So sorry, you guys are pushing back and you're asking good questions. First T says, Connor, is there any point of separatism you would consider too far? For example, would you support a certain municipality voiding their criminal statutes to do Sharia instead, like needing a male witness for a rape accusation? Yeah. That's way too far. Way too fucking far. The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land, and if you don't defer to it, you can go fuck yourself. If you have some thing where you're like, oh, well, I can lash an adulterous woman because, the Sharia says I can do so, or I can stone her to death. And obviously the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. Obviously. The only way that I would accept it is in reference to civil shit. I think the UK actually did this. So let's say there's like a civil dispute, like Muslim divorce law, by the way. So let's take a look at this, because I think Muslim divorce law is actually pretty generous to the woman. Like, initiating divorce is hard, but I think that Muslim divorce law allows for divorce as a last resort, encouraging reconciliation first through family arbitrators. The husband initiates divorce through talaq, requiring a 3-month waiting period, IDA, for potential reconciliation or to confirm pregnancy. Women can also seek divorce through khula or judicial divorce for specific reasons, and both parties have rights regarding assets and child support after the divorce is finalized. So, for instance, if somebody wanted to say, because divorce is largely negotiated through the state as an arbitrator, right? And so if both parties agreed to a divorce settlement using Sharia law as a guide, but they both agreed to participate in the separation policy of talaq, the potential reconciliation, the family arbitrators, the khula, which is like if the man beats you or does something fucked up, then the women can initiate the divorce. If both parties agree to Sharia judgment, then I think like a Sharia-based civil arbitrator could reach a resolution within civil law. However, if the man wants to do Sharia-based and the woman wants to do civil, then I think like American secular civil, then I think the American secular civil needs to still be the supreme law of the land, enforceable through law enforcement. So, for instance, if an abusive husband was trying to force an abused wife through a Sharia court instead of a secular court, and then the woman said, no, I want to do a secular court, and then he starts threatening her to compel her to go through Sharia stuff, that's the kind of shit where law enforcement needs to get involved. So if it's dude, not anything that's voluntary, but things that are relatively benign and voluntary, I don't have a problem with. But obviously, once it becomes compelled, then yeah. Not a Robot says Connor is acknowledging Walsh has a valid point, but is just making fun of him because how about trying to form an actual counterpoint instead of just lol cowing away? Not a Robot, you're a fucking loser. You're a fucking loser. You're a fucking loser. You're a fucking loser. And my point is, Matt Walsh is a fucking pussy. Okay? He's freaking out because there's some Muslim majority city in the United States because we took in a bunch of Somalis during the Somali Civil War 30 years ago, which is a moral thing to do. And now he's crying and pissing his pants because people are different than him. He's a fucking pussy. That's my point. So, lol cowing it away. If you haven't noticed, Not a Robot, you're fucking new here. I have 150 fucking people. Yeah, people are going to trickle in and trickle out. But relatively speaking, once I get going, I have a stable audience. I have a stable fucking audience. They're not like, oh, what R-slurred thing has Connor said today? Matter of fact, they thought I was lol cowing yesterday because I was saying Bonnie Blue needed to be institutionalized for being such a whore that it was risky to her health, both mental and physical. And they're still here. They're still going to fight me. So Not a Robot. That's your last snarky comment. If I see one more bitchy fucking comment, you're catching a ban because you're a fucking loser. How about that? How about them apples?
Be down some other further slippery slope pathway of, I don't know, National Guard throwing people in jail for political disagreements or, controlling polling stations, all these other things, right? I would need to see someone like when he's saying, okay, that Trump.
Ved Sunil says, I think you were R-slurred in the panel last night. Found myself agreeing with Pisco. Bro, you just hate Doobie, Ved Sunil. You just hate Doobie, bro. Just accept that you have, like, Doobie triggers the fuck out of you. Just accept that.
Is going to, like, transform these immigrant detention facilities into throwing in Antifa people. And then that's going to transform into throwing, like,
Aiden Fitzpatrick says, Cotter is the only Republican that never engages with other Republicans and is more left-wing than Bill Maher, a moron grifter. Wrong. I was on fucking Raging Tomato last week. I've debated Nick Fuentes. I've debated Andrew Wilson. I've debated Misfit Patriot. I've debated Cultured Thug. I've debated I could come up with like another list of like a dozen fucking people, but you're a pussy. You're wrong. Terms of service. When I want to say KYS, I'm gonna say TOS. Okay, so you guys know what I'm saying. All right, I'm not gonna say the thing, but I'm gonna say that I shouldn't say the thing through TOS. Okay, so Aiden Fitzpatrick, TOS.
Democrats and like that to me seems. I have to see that happen before I
Sorry for the belch. I was just feeling it.
believe that is the plan, or I believe that that would even be legal or feasible in our current situation. Before I throw my hands up and start screaming fascism, fascism, fascism. Like this early in the game, it doesn't seem realistic to me, or it doesn't seem like it's, even if you think it's going to happen, it seems like you're just crying wolf so early that even if it did happen, you basically have desensitized people to even be bothered by it when it does happen.
Yeah, and you're terrorizing your voters. You're literally terrorizing your voters. How are you not?
Well, that's the point, to get people to vote for the other side, right? Or to galvanize support against Trump.
This has to stop. This has to stop. I'm just so over the shit. All right, I don't know if this is exactly where she says the fascist when she says it. Or I think we're pretty close.
I don't understand why we're allowing that to happen, because I actually think it's going to hurt our communities. People are going to look at Washington, D.C. folks in a way that I think is going to be very painful, but also, you know, I don't know, Mr. Jackson, I heard the stories. People didn't leave their homes. They weren't leaving their homes. Businesses didn't see people coming into, I mean, that's what we want in our nation's capital. Stay in your house. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. Stay fearful. It's unbelievable that my colleagues continue again to eject this narrative and this rhetoric regards it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in DC, home rule was one out of Black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights. We can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say serious, you know, like so.
ACL'd up says, you want us to leave? No, I just want to bully you a little bit. Listen, guys. I'm going to look into your eyes. Gen X, look away, okay? Gen X, look away. Oh, it's blurry. I don't want it to be blurry. I want you to see my face as I look into your eyeballs. Okay. Listen, I get it. A third of you, apparently, are fucking super libs. And you prefer a super liberal over me. And that's totally fine. It's totally fine. However, I think I'm right. I think I'm articulate. I think I articulate my ideas well. I think that for whatever beefs you have in reference to me being like a prude or me being maybe anti-democratic or too critical of progressives or too critical of leftism, whatever, I think that I articulate my criticisms well. I think I'm good faith. I think I engage with my chat really aggressively. Sometimes I think I'm funny. Not all the time. Most of the time, I actually think I'm quite dumb when it comes to humor, but I do think I'm funny. And so the point is, I want to be your favorite streamer. I know I'm not, but I want to be your favorite streamer. I want you to go to Pisco and be like, well, Pisco and I align 99% on politics, but he's just not as funny. He's too self-serious. He's too dry. He's too boring. He wants to debate everything all the time. Connor made me laugh the other day by saying that Bonnie Blue should be incarcerated for being such a whore. And while I think that that is a really stupid policy, he actually made me laugh quite a few times during that segment. And therefore, instead of clicking on Pisco, I want you to come here and click here and watch me and super chat to me. Now, is that selfish? Absolutely. Is it egotistical? Absolutely. Is it annoying? Absolutely. But do I feel that? Yes. When Pisco is live and there's 50 people watching Pisco talking about how paint is drying, and they leave me for Pisco, it hurts my feelings. Okay? So I compensate by giving you shit for watching Pisco paint dry, or watching Pisco watch paint dry, rather than coming over here and arguing with me about incarcerating Bonnie Blue for being a whore. I think that's more fun. But, you know, you're a free person. You vote with your feet. You vote with your super chats. So I'm not going to hate. I'm just going to make a joke about it every now and then. Fair? I think that's fair.
Personally, as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And
Are you going to moral frog about that? Now, I'm not saying that Rashida Tlaib knows what fascism means, but if she's saying that she thinks that an authoritarian government is currently trying to buck up against the guardrails of our constitutional republic and that they're wannabe fascists, and this is a descriptive term, not a pejorative term that's meant to like attack individuals, but more systemic description, are you going to moral frog about that, Adam? I have a feeling you will, but maybe you could prove me wrong. I would be so happy to be wrong.
attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word.
Yep.
It's a fact. And here in DC and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames and or paints Washington DC in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair,
Nice.
but you all live
like
here,
Mr.
and
Lee.
you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our
Mr.
nation's
Lee.
capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're
Oh,
doing it.
Chairman, I think
Wrong.
it's
True. Timothy, and she's saying like, oh yeah, DC has some fucking rough parts, but you guys are being fascist dickheads. You got National Guard all over the place, and while the homicide rate has plummeted, which is good by the way, you're doing it in an authoritarian, draconian way. People are afraid to leave their houses. Blah 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 blah. Do I think she's being alarmist? Yeah, probably. I don't think like Jeb from the National Guard, who's deployed for 30 days as a show of force to reduce the homicide rate. I don't think he's on the verge of like, you know, snapping up random Hispanic people. I do think ICE is going to do that for sure. ICE is going to do that for sure. So if you're an illegal immigrant in Washington, D.C. during the crackdown, yeah, then I would understand why you would be afraid. But I think that Rashida Tlaib needs to deal with the fact that technically they're not supposed to be here. We can talk about morality. We can talk about legality. But you need to deal with the fact that, like, it is immoral, but it's not technically illegal. And that's the conversation we need to have. Timothy Douglas says, pretty disappointed you seem sided with Doobie last night on the I'm a solid blue state, I can protest vote, blah, blah. Well, Timothy Douglas, I'm going to tell you, I don't feel this way, okay? I don't feel this way, but I understand lefties and progressives who do. So what Doobie is saying, which I understand, even if I don't agree with it, is that liberals will constantly use appeals to pragmatism and appeals to danger in reference to Trump and appeals to what's going on in our country right now with which to badger the non-voters. Okay? And I think that from a pragmatic political perspective, that's true. However, what I think Pisco is doing, that's fucking annoying as shit, is he's not acknowledging that liberals are not really catering to their demographic base in reference to Israel-Palestine or in reference to like economic concerns. They're just not, dude. They're just not. So you can say that Democrats are better than Republicans. That's true. But when your options are, you know, eating a shit sandwich and eating a shit sandwich with razor blades in it, obviously eating the shit sandwich is better than eating a shit sandwich with razor blades in it. That's just true. But you should still acknowledge that you're eating a shit sandwich, and somebody saying, hey, rather than me being compelled to eat poop, could you like not put poop in my sandwich and could instead you try like salami or Swiss or chicken tenders or something that isn't fecal matter? I think you need to understand that like people would prefer to eat like chicken and salami over dog shit. Okay? Understand it logically. Even if you still agree that eating a sandwich filled with poop and razor blades is worse than eating a sandwich filled with poop. It's not a difficult conception. Also pretty disappointed. I'm not going to lie. This is like lib-coded language. I'm pretty disappointed, bro. I'm pretty disappointed. Guess what? I'm going to have shit takes. I'm going to have shit takes that you're not going to like. And you're going to have to fucking, you know, give your balls a tug, okay? Give your balls a tug. I'm going to disappoint you. It's going to happen.
saying that the gentle lady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues.
Mr. Donald,
We were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one.
You're enabling it, but that's okay. And by the way, I don't think Trump is the Third Reich. I think he's an infinitely dumber version of it.
Taking your
Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
I think you enable, I think you enable authoritarianism, whoever this Republican guy is. Yes.
Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane.
Haha. Key code says traitor. I said in my stormtrooper voice. What a cool guy. What a cool guy. That guy, that stormtrooper from the first Disney Star Wars who saw Finn running around with a bunch of rebels and pick up a lightsaber. And he's like, I have a shock maul that can fight a lightsaber. I'm going to go beat the fuck out of Finn. What a cool guy. I'm sad he died. What a character.
I'll respect everything that you say, but to say something like that to myself and all of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Damn, bro. Congress is just Twitch politics for real, for real. Yo, this would fit. Prime should host Rashida Tlaib versus whoever this black Republican guy is. That'd be fire content. Just listening to Rashida Tlaib just freak out. And I'm not saying that in like an anti-Muslim way. I'm saying that in it sounds like a turkey screaming. I'm saying that in an sexist way. I'm not saying this in an anti-Muslim way.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order. That's okay, but it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free DC and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody else.
All right.
Fashion 40 for 5 says your son is effing based for liking Dragon Balls. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say the word Dragon Balls.
Chair recognizes Ms.
Christian Blair says, I thought Connor said he knows how to use StreamYards now thanks to Raging Tomato. Raging Tomato, I think, enabled that setting. I think in order for me to multi-stream on StreamYard while Prime Kai is doing that, he needs to enable a setting.
Wow.
Yeah, see, and the way she says it is so fucking condescending for her to say, oh, look, it's just a fact, okay? We're just talking about facts here, you fucking fascist. And the irony of her talking about rhetoric. Oh, your rhetoric is getting, the fascists, your rhetoric is getting too out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you. That's what.
All right. And dude, this is why Adam and I are not going to be friends, okay? This is why we're not going to be friends. And listen, guys, trust me, I want to go back on the show. I want to talk to Adam. I want to talk to Sitch. I want to do it. But I'm just like, I'm kind of worried that what's going to happen is we're going to get hung up on one of these things. And I'm just going to start being so fucking mean to Adam. And it's just not going to be a productive conversation. Okay. We've gone over this before, but we're going to go over it again. Fascism is political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism. I've talked to Cultured Thug. I've talked to Keith Woods. I've talked to, I can't really think of another person. But those are like the main nationalist fascist philosophers who have read Giovanni Gentile, and I've read Benito Mussolini, and I've read Hitler. Truth be told, I think I read a summary of Gentile, but I haven't read a book by Gentile yet. I should probably read a book by Gentile. But fascism is believing in political corporatism, and that does not exclusively mean like an economic philosophy, all right? It means analogizing the nation state to a human body. And I got examples like the heart is the economy, and the government is the brain, and the skin is the military, and the white blood cell is the cops, and hospice and asylums and public hospitals are the guts. And so the whole point of this is the body should not be fighting itself. And if you have a growth that is threatening to destroy the whole body, then you can correctly identify that growth as a cancer. If you have a virus that makes the entire body sick, you could probably correctly identify that as a virus. Now, the problem is that people use this analogy to identify ethno-religious groups as cancers or virus and therefore justify mass slaughter. That's what Hitler did. He identified the Jews as a cancer or a parasite or a virus that was infecting the political corporative body. And so when you analogize political corporatism to ethno-religious tribalism, what ends up happening is you just identify Indians or Black people or Jews or other ethno-religious minorities or sexual minorities as parasites and viruses. Therefore, they deserve to be purged by the political corporative state. That's the problem with political corporatism, is it's very easy to analogize your enemies as cancer, right? And therefore, do you keep cancer in your body? Do you feed cancer in your body? Or do you excise it, right? You excise cancer. And so within that analogy framework, it's really easy to, attack people. So that's the problem with political corporatism, even though I am a political corporatist. I want to advocate for the harmony of the political corporative body. I'm just not a flexible authoritarian. And a flexible authoritarian is somebody who doesn't care about the republic, doesn't care about monarchy, doesn't care about parliament, doesn't care about representative democracy. They don't have a flexible authoritarian doesn't have any principled stance on any particular issue. What they care about, allegedly, is getting power and then advocating for the political, corporative, holistic health. At least that's how they justify getting power. And because of the flexible authoritarian mindset, if they need to lie to get power, if they need to kill to get power, if they need to break the Constitution of the United States in order to get power, whatever they need to do, they need to maintain power. And so when people ask me, is MAGA a fascistic movement? My answer is yes. If they ask me if Trump is a fascist, I say Trump is functionally a fascist, but I think he's too stupid to understand the ideology. Like if somebody tried to explain early 20th century fascist philosophy, Trump would get bored and he wouldn't be interested in listening to about like history of Giovanni Gentile and Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. But is this the way that Trump uses his rhetoric? And is this the way that Trump does politics? The answer is yes. And do I think that there are people around Trump who understand political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism? 100%. I think Stephen Miller probably knows. I think Stephen Miller has probably read Gentile. I know Curtis Yarvin has read Gentile. So yeah, there's fascists or fascist-friendly people within the MAGA movement who are thought leaders. So Rashida Tlaib, or is it Rashida Tlaib, or is that... Yeah, I think that's Rashida Tlaib, right? Because Ilhan Omar is the Somali gal. I'm being racist again. Rashida... with Hassan Piker. She sweeps for Palestinian terrorism. She's a freak. Okay, I don't like Rashida Tlaib, but is she correctly calling out that some Republican leadership, a substantive amount of Republican leadership, are playing footsie with authoritarianism? Yep, she's right. She's descriptively correct. And saying, hey, I'm a black Republican. Do I look like a Nazi from 1930s Germany? Is kind of missing the point. And I am unsurprised that Adam Friended is missing the point. I am not surprised at all.
That's what I want to see more of. I want to see more Congress people lighting up on these people, being like, what the fuck are you talking about? How dare you call my constituents fascist, you piece of shit.
I think your constituents are too ignorant to know what fascism is, and therefore they vote for people like Trump and his administration, which includes Stephen Miller, who's definitely read Gentile. I haven't confirmed this, by the way, but I should probably look it up. Like, apparently, Stephen Miller's speech, it either echoed or was a plagiarism of a Goebbels speech. Like, yeah, when you're quoting the main propagandist from the Nazi Party of the 1930s, or you're copying his aura, yeah, people get to call you fascist. Okay? I'm just being real. Now, I need to use the restroom, so I'm going to leave you in the incompetent hands of Adam Friended. I'll be right back.
Shit.
I don't even know what she was talking. What is she talking about?
She was talking about the DC, the National Guard in DC.
No. I know that, but she was accusing Byron Donalds of like giving someone his voting card.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that was all about, but she
like, you gave someone else your voting card. What? Okay. I guess there's some story there, but I don't know what the fuck
she went hysterical.
Yeah.
Look, Byron Donalds for president. I hope he's running.
Isn't he?
Rashida Tlaib is insane. Look, the squad has proven themselves insane.
Byron Donaldson's a Florida man. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you're so lucky. You're swimming in insanity over there.
Okay, so this is what the AI says. It says in February 2025, Representative Byron Donalds faced criticism for allegedly giving his voting card to another person that cast votes on his behalf while he was in California for an appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher. Multiple reports at the time accused Donalds of violating House rules which prohibited this practice.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So it was voting in the House.
The alleged
Voting on
ghost
some
voting
bills.
incident. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. And I assume if he did do that, that you're not supposed to do that. That's wrong. But I don't see how that's fascism. That would just be someone
That's fascism.
breaking the House rules and doing something shitty. That's not fascism. So
I can't. This is the best way to deal with it. Because look, there's no good way to deal with it legally.
Right.
But this whole shaming them into submission, I got to admit, I like it. Let the voters figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Although Rashida Tlaib is probably in some kind of district that's way gerrymandered to the point where she can say whatever she wants. That's a big problem too. These gerrymandered districts, they just incentivize people to go insane.
Yes. Yeah, she's in Detroit, Michigan.
Oh. Thank you for the super chat, JMac. JMac for $100. New rule: Ace is not allowed to be in first place. It has been decreed. Chat is not a democracy. It is a monarchy. I have the crown. That is right.
Go. There you go. And look at this. Thank you, JMac. And look at this. Ace for 8 months. Paying for Secret says, Adam, I'm sorry I've been going way too hard at you. I still may have criticisms of you, but I went too far. I went from playing the villain to being one. Look at that.
Well, thank you. That is nice. That is nice of you.
That is great. Yeah. Ace, I'm glad you said, because I was about to say, like, I'm starting to get tired of, I think there's like too much negativity and too much insulting going on in chat. And I was gonna be like, listen, Ace, you can disagree with Adam or me, or anyone can disagree with Adam or me, but just disagree. Don't be hyper insulting. And
it does. It does intimidate It intimidates new people who come into the chat who don't necessarily. They're like, "What is this place?" It's hard for them to get a foothold if everybody's just being super incendiary. So
that's
a little bit of ribbing, I think, is appropriate, but
that's a great point too. Is because I've seen new people come in the chat and then they just get basically screened out by someone else in chat.
Yeah,
maybe it's been in a while, and it's just like, thank you for making our community smaller. So
yeah.
So again, disagreement, fine, but let's keep the schizoidness down to a minimum and the insults down to a minimum. At least the people that are engaged in the actual conversation. If you want to insult people, they're not here. That's Well, actually, that's not true. Don't insult friends of the show either. Even if you disagree with them, disagree with them. Don't throw insults. Everyone just be kind. We need to be nice. Yes. We need to learn. Now is the moment for kindness in America.
What did I miss? Are they sweeping? What did I miss?
All right. Temperatures are too high here at the Sitch Show. We're going to try to calm everything down. We're going to try to calm people down.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we want to do. And just chill everyone out.
Yes. Now let's go back to the fascism.
Now let's go back to these people yelling at each other on the floor of the House.
No. I mean, let's go back to the guy saying that Trump is going to do the fascist takeover America or whatever he's talking about.
Was he trying to shut it? Was he gaveling?
Yeah. So just as an example, Chort says, I live near Dearborn and go there occasionally. You would not know it's majority Muslim unless someone told you. That's what I'm saying. Like, Matt Walsh, because he's a fucking pussy, thinks that because there's a Muslim majority city, that America is on the verge of collapse, which is radicalizing people online to think that we need to take this country back. We need to become a Christian, theocratic, fascist theocracy. I know I repeated myself, but let's just go to Dearborn, bro. Like seriously. Like, whoever was that pussy who was in my chat earlier, who's like, rather than just being a lol cow and calling Matt Walsh a pussy, why don't you contend with some of his... Let's go, bro. Let's go. I might not have enough money to pay for your fucking plane ticket, but I'll go to Dearborn if you're willing to pay. I'll go to Dearborn with you. Let's go get some shawarma. Let's walk around downtown Dearborn. Let's see how dangerous these radical leftist Muslim terrorists are. Let's go see it in person. I'll do it.
The whole time. I know
he had to. I can listen to it if you want.
I know he had to have a huge smile on his face.
I think he gave up at some point. It's so funny because that was James Comer, and we've listened to so many of these House committee things, and he He's always he always has this air of like, I don't know. He always has this, like, he's obviously sat through a million of these arguments. So he always has this kind of air of indifference to any situation.
Rachel P says, "What's with the fear? I've been to Tel Aviv and Bethlehem. People are so damn nice. It's because all they see is compilations of black teenagers beating the shit out of people. All they see is compilations of jihadist terrorist attacks and beheadings. All they see is compilations of fucking like Hispanic cartel members cutting off people's heads with a chainsaw because they're addicted to fear. They're addicted to violence. They're addicted to blood. They're addicted to existential crises. And so since oftentimes if they look outside, like it's like America, the lore versus America, the gameplay. Okay. America, the lore is that we're a revolutionary society filled with guns and freedom and strip clubs and fake boobs and, you know, American flag bikinis and Jeeps and, you know, like off-roading and dirt bikes and motorcycles and sports cars and clubs. That's the lore of America, is that it's like one big violent, fun, fucked up party. But the gameplay for 99% of people is going to work, barely paying your bills, eating Taco Bell, and watching Netflix. That's the gameplay. And so as a result, since they don't have access to off-roading and motorcycles and guns and big fake boobs and clubs and all that bullshit, they go out onto the internet and they're like, well, what do I want to look at? And they're like, well, my life kind of sucks. So why don't I go look at everything that sucks? And if you go look at everything that sucks, it's going to be the videos of, you know, endless amounts of black teenagers beating the shit out of people, jihadist terrorist attacks, and cartel drug violence. And so as a result, you're like, damn, the world's like a scary, fucked up place. I will do anything to stop all the fucked up shit that I see on the internet. And then you become an idiot. And then you don't know what the world is because you can't afford to go interact with it. And so unironically, what I said last night, I'm going to stand by it. Some fucking liberal in my chat was disappointed by my take last night. I'm going to stand by it. If you're not improving the life of a guy who works at Dollar General for $10 an hour, if you're not giving him the capacity to pay his bills, take care of his family, go on an occasional vacation, and enjoy his weekends, if he does not have that standard of living, he is going to radicalize because he will be willing to vote for any person who promises him a better life than being a wage slave in the shittiest retail jobs in the shittiest cities in America. He will vote for anyone who promises him a change of pace because his day-to-day is spiritual agony. All right. Severin says, my city has the most shawarma places outside of the Arab world. Finger red, number one. Based. Golden booty shorts. Yeah, don't tell me you don't love that shit. Don't tell me the gays don't love golden booty shorts. S says, my son just started watching Dragon Balls. I got a couple of figures for his birthday. Base. Conservatism says, I think the problem people have with Muslims is that they see happening in France, Germany, Sweden, the UK. Fathers, arm your daughters. Yeah, sure. And any person who uses Islamic supremacy in order to justify bigotry or justify rape or murder, they need to be incarcerated or killed by the state. I don't want Pakistani rape gangs. Pakistani rape gangs should be broken up like international criminal cartels, and anybody who raped somebody else based off of their ethno-religious supremacy should be incarcerated for life or killed by the state. So I'm just saying 99% of people in Dearborn, Michigan are not Pakistani rape gangs. Okay. I saw Muslims in countries a huge amount of dudes have their helpers. If that becomes normalized, I think we need to have a serious conversation. What if you're talking about like closeted gay homosexual hookups because they can't have premarital sex? Yeah, that's cringe as fuck, obviously. Plague Doctor says, thanks, Connor. Wife just yelled, what the hell are you listening to from the other room after hearing nipple tassels? You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, back to it.
Like no matter, or like he like barely, it always feels like he's like half paying attention to what anyone's saying at any moment. He just doesn't care. It's like so tapped out, which I find hilarious.
She completely deserved it. That whole This is where they're retreating to. You know, she said, look, don't get insulted when I call you a fascist. It's just a descriptive term, okay?
Right.
It's
True.
like, that is such bullshit. Like, you're lying to my face. Why are you doing this?
Because there's people in the Trump administration who are 100% probably philosophical fascists, and then Trump himself is a political corporatist and a flexible authoritarian. So even if he's too stupid to understand the ideology, he's in effect a fascist.
Who believes that? Who believes that shit? It's so much.
I do. And ironically, because I understand words.
Much more insulting when you just say, oh yeah, look, I'm just describing you as you are, right? Look, you're a fat, ugly bitch. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just describing you.
Also true.
It's just a description. Yeah, you're overweight and you're fucking, and you look like shit. What do you want from me?
Wow, look at this.
Yes.
It's a fact, right?
Yeah.
Also true.
You look like an elderly fucking dog that's about to die.
Damn, getting fucking misogynist up in this bitch. Andy B says, I think a reconciliation process should be required for divorce, should be the norm of a community level. It was an important thing churches used to do, but since the churches are dying, it doesn't exist anymore. Sure. It should be voluntary, but yeah, should be culturally enforced. Or culturally enforced might sound too strong to my liberal audience. It should be culturally encouraged. ReadMe45 says, I don't think you pinged the Discord that you're live. Well, I'm live on Valor Media Network, so I don't have that bot set up. First T says, okay, that's where I thought you were, but you were coming down on the Christian separatists pretty hard, so I just wanted to confirm. Gotcha. All right. Joe Vaughn says, golden booty shorts, why are you singling me out?
Jesus Christ.
What's up with your cross-eyed bitch face?
Oh my
looking
God.
at me.
I thought we were.
All right. You guys are missing a reference, and I need you to get caught up, okay? One of the best comedy series in the past several decades is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And the best moment from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, It's Always Sunny, what is it? Roxy dies. This is one of the funniest fucking things.
Roxy.
Okay, so Frank Reynolds is like a disgusting, degenerate multimillionaire who's circling the drain of mortality and decides that he wants to hang out with his son and daughter's friends and be an alcoholic and do drugs. And so he starts dating an actual street walking prostitute, French kissing her and banging her, and like it's like actually gross. And she's gross, and like despite being physically attractive, she is actually repulsive with like one of the foulest mouths that has ever been put on national television. So what ends up happening is Roxy encourages the entire gang to be worse. She encourages Dee to shoplift. She encourages everybody else to try crack cocaine. She just like makes everyone worse around her, but they kind of accept it because they accept that they're falling into the mire. And Frank wants to marry Roxy despite the fact that she's a crack addicted street walking prostitute. Well, what happens is the gang is like smoking crack. They're eating junk food. They're stealing from stores. They're being terrible people. But what ends up happening is Roxy actually overdoses on crack cocaine. She actually has a heart attack and dies. And so Frank Reynolds eulogizes her corpse before he puts her corpse out into the hallway to let law enforcement collect her corpse. So before he lets her go, because he loved Roxy, this is the speech that he gives.
God bless you. You were a good whore. You serviced me like no other whore ever did. Not only my crank, but my heart. And I'm gonna miss you. Amen.
So should we get the dead whore out of the apartment?
Out of here.
I'll pause it. Hopefully we don't get copyright for that one. Anyways, Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. We're at 170 people. I parasocially love you. Thank you for being here. You guys have been insanely generous this month. Probably our best month ever so far. And thank you. Thank you for that. Let's go.
Listen, I thought we were
I'm just being descriptive.
Or nicer
Look,
here
I'm
going
just
forward
being
in the future.
descriptive here, okay? This is not
Okay.
meant to be an insult.
Oh,
you
of
stupid
course.
cunt.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Wow, Adam, slow it down there, buddy. Slow it. Let's cool it with the anti-massage, or let's cool it with the anti-female words there, Adam.
Interesting. So, thank you.
Just being descriptive, okay?
Right.
This
Thank you for the
isn't meant to
description.
insult you.
Of course.
Plus all your constituents. No, I'm just kidding. Never go.
Okay, you guys are hating on Doobie, and somebody's saying is Doobie is a fucking moron. Listen, Timothy Douglas, I'm going to need you to step your game up, okay? This is a 3,000 IQ chat. This is the smartest chat in Twitch and YouTube politics, all right? Disagreeing with someone does not mean the other person is unintelligent, okay? I need you to differentiate that if you're going to be a part of this chat. Disagreeing with someone does not mean that they're stupid. They can have alternative worldview that they've gotten to through a lot of thought and a lot of introspection. For instance, I think that Stephen Bonnell II is wrong about a lot of things. He is obviously an intelligent person. I think Nick Fuentes is wrong about a lot of things. He's obviously an intelligent person. Doobie, maybe y'all like hate him for like some cringe shit that he did, or he did some like cringe things socially or whatever, but that doesn't mean that he's unintelligent.
After the voters.
I know. My read of Tlaib is that she is, she actually believes what she's saying. It's retarded, but she actually believes it. I don't think she's just grifting. That level of like screeching, that feels like sincere craziness to me.
Well, why
not like a put on?
Why are these people? Maybe it is because their bubble has to be even more insane, right? Rashida Tlaib probably gets 1,000 death threats a day, right?
Right.
So
That's a good point.
she feels like, oh my God, this is fascism, right?
Right.
She's getting every single racist on the internet sending her death threats.
Mm-hmm.
So she does think we're on the verge of fascism. This is the thing. We need to make it illegal to throw out death threats on the internet. I think death threats. I think we can all agree.
I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Yeah.
Well,
it's just that
it needs
it's very
to be enforced.
difficult. Yeah, that's the problem. Is like, how do you enforce it? So.
Well, you first of all, it'll take a while to find somebody, right? And it'll probably be difficult to find a number of people. Like if 10 people do it, maybe you find one. But
Zena says, you debating lactate anytime soon? Yeah, sure. I'll debate lactate.
Once you find that one, you make an example of them. You throw them in prison for 30 years. You say, look, here's what's going to happen if we find you. You're going to jail for your entire fucking life. Okay. I think that would make an impression on people. I think people would think twice about it. They'd be like, oh, the chance of me getting caught is pretty slim. But if I do get caught, holy shit.
There was someone, I forget who it was. They were saying they're making some comment. I don't know if it was from like Marcus Aurelius or one of these.
So Rachel said, stop using the P word, but I will have you know, Rachel, that I use the word pusillanimous. Okay. And you're right. I should stop using the short form P word. I should continue to use the word pusillanimous. But pusillanimous has nothing to do with female physiology. It means showing a lack of courage or determination. So you are right. I should stop using the short form of pusillanimous, and I will use the long form to be less misogynist. You're right. My apologies.
Old philosopher people. That's probably true. They were saying it's not the severity of the punishment that stops people from doing the crime.
It's whether or not they're going to get
how
caught.
likely they think it is that they will face punishment at all.
That
stops them from doing the crime. And so, I think that's the issue. Is that just it's too easy for people to hide it.
Oh my God. I don't know where that study comes from.
It wasn't a study. It was just some like philosopher guy saying.
Oh, okay. Well, so then hasn't even been tangible evidence on it.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure someone has studied that concept. But
ReadMe says for $5, you should buy some extra monitors so you can keep up with chat. Number one, thank you for your super chat. Number two, I will. So the very gracious check that you guys have given me this month will be paid out on October 20th. I will get new monitors. Sometimes it takes a couple of days to clear. So when that check clears, October 22nd, 23rd, I will have new monitors. I'll have one vertical monitor over here where I will watch the old chat. I'll have one vertical monitor over here where I'm watching the live chat. And then that way I'll bounce between them. And if there's something live, I'll deal with it then. And if there's something old that I think is funny, then I'll deal with it then. And then boom, we'll be cooking.
Look, people.
I was like, no, hang them high. Like,
no, I just the logic of it is, oh, I could play Russian roulette because the chance of me being actually shot by the bullet is so slim, right? Well, it is Russian roulette though, and you will die, right?
Right.
Playing Russian roulette with a BB gun is different than playing Russian roulette with a loaded revolver, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be Russian roulette with a BB gun, they're like, well, I probably won't get caught, and if I do get caught, it's.
Pico says, "Why am I beefing with Pisco? We're just always beefing, bro. We're frenemies.
It's like a week in jail. Okay,
that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, if they say, look, if I do get caught, I mean, literally, I'm blowing my head off. People are going to be less likely to do it.
Right.
Yeah, Russian roulette with a BB gun. Sign me up, Sitch. You want to play this weekend?
No, not really. But
really, I've been shot with a BB gun a bunch of times. Look, it's nothing.
It's probably a combination of the two things.
The left wingers always go to this when you talk about raising punishments. They always go to this. Oh well, the getting thrown in jail doesn't deter crime, and I think.
Thung Dark says, say shagged every once in a while, and maybe I won't ever watch Lonerbox again. You know what? That's a good point. I need to incorporate the phrase shagged into my vernacular. That's a good one. Xena says, with Misfit Patriot, I'm worried that Trump did run a third term. Trump would give a bullshit reason and Misfit Patriot would cope about it, just like with the false elector scheme. I know, Zenith. I agree with you. Misfit Patriot is so deep in the cult that if Trump ran for a third term, he would be like, oh, well, maybe the 12th Amendment does let you become the Speaker of the House and everybody can step down. Therefore, Donald Trump saying that he's not really running because he's going to be some lower level cabinet person, but then everybody else is going to step down. Therefore, he could be president for a third term. Yeah, if he fucking coped about it, I would call him out on that. Obviously. And I do think that he's delusional that he doesn't think that he's trapped in the Trump cult. I think he's trapped in the Trump cult. Obviously so.
Says who? What?
Well, no, I don't know if they were saying when I've heard people argue this, I haven't done any sort of data into any of this, but they claim.
Dank Brandon says, I'm the only person that he gives money to. Thank you, Dank Brandon. I parasocially love you for it.
That there are studies that show that the increasing the severity for certain crimes
Thank you, Christian Valaris. You are the foundation of the channel.
Doesn't stop people from doing them, and because people don't think they're going to get caught. So that's why I think what does deter crime is not you have to increase the severity. Here's the way to conceptualize it. It's not increasing the severity, I think, that deters crime. It's if you increase the severity to keep the criminal in jail because that person's going to go out and maybe.
Okay, they're yapping again. I'm going to fast forward another 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to let them make another substantive point, and then we'll probably move into the next segment.
For killing the martyr is a betrayal of the martyr, and that's.
I think we heard this part. I'll skip forward a little bit.
Gen X for 10. I just watched Pisco on my computer at 2 times speed to hear about Connor and to hear about the Comey indictment. I didn't leave here, I promise. No problems, Gen X. I parasocially love you. Not a robot says lol. Me being new means jack shit, and Connor knows that I'm not your enemy, and your audience size is not a win. It's a childish cop-out. Your response and threat of banning only proves my point. Okay, you're too fucking autistic for my chat. Go fuck yourself. See ya. Bye. If you can't be not a rude bitch, you don't deserve to be in my chat. It is a privilege. It is a privilege to be in the community of girl hottists. It is a privilege to be amongst the most intelligent and well-endowed of Twitch and YouTube political chats. It is a privilege to hang out around such a high caliber of men and women that 10,000 DGGers could show up to fist fight and 100 coggers could show up to fist fight, and I have all of my money on the coggers to win. It is a privilege to be among such esteemed company. So if you're a rude bitch, you're going to get banned.
Being targeted and demonized as criminals and all this kind of stuff as a way to build Trump's version of the brown shirts, this rogue paramilitary group, ICE, with all of...
Emmanuel Randon says, I wish Sitch and Adam had a third co-host that was more willing to push back against Adam's narrative. I volunteer as tribute. I will ruin the show for you. Randy says, you mentioned before your admiration for Mattis. Can you get more specific? I hear a lot of mixed reviews about the man. Yeah, they're only mixed because Trump's a fucking loser. General James Mattis. James Norman Mattis, born 1950. SecDef. Dude, just read his wiki. Enlisted in the Marine Corps. He was a fucking volunteer in 1969. He was a commissioned second lieutenant through the Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps on January 1st, 1972. During his service, Mattis was considered an intellectual among the upper ranks. Robert Scales, a retired United States Army Major General, called him one of the most urbane and polished men I've ever known. As lieutenant, Mattis was assigned as a rifle and weapons platoon commander in the 3rd Marine Division. As a captain, he was assigned to the Naval Academy Preparatory Schools Battalion, where he commanded rifle and weapons companies of the 1st Marine Regiment, then served at Recruiting Station Portland, Oregon as a major. Upon promotion to the rank of lieutenant colonel, Mattis commanded 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, one of the Task Force Rippers assault battalions during the Gulf War. As a colonel, Mattis commanded the 7th Marine Regiment from June 1994 to June 1996. Mattis is a graduate of the U.S. Marine Corps Amphibious Warfare School, Marine Corps Command and Staff College, and the National War College. He is noted for his interest in the study of military history and world history, with a personal library that once included over 7,000 volumes and a penchant for published required reading lists for Marines under his command. He required his Marines to be well-read in the culture and history of regions where they were deployed, and had his Marines deploying in Iraq to undergo cultural sensitivity training. According to an article published in 2004 by the LA Times, it was his concern for the enlisted ranks, along with his energy and enthusiasm, that garnered him the nickname Mad Dog. But in 2016, when President-elect Trump asked Mattis if his nickname was indeed Mad Dog, Mattis replied, "No, sir. His actual nickname is Chaos." So if you want to read this, like, go for it, bro. But you need to read his Afghan accomplishments, his Iraq War accomplishments, his Persian Gulf accomplishments, like all that kind of stuff. No better friend, no worse enemy. This is what I was trained under. So the whole point, in my opinion, he is like a true intellectual when it comes to counterinsurgency warfare. And so that's what I love about Mattis, is that he looks like this nice man, but you get these crazy quotes from him. Like, you get this quote like, "Son, we do shit that you get put in prison for." Mattis, we do shit you get put in prison for. The line, "we do shit you get put in prison for," is a quote attributed to former Secretary of Defense and retired Marine Corps General James Mattis. The exact phrasing is unconfirmed, but it reflects the sentiment of his recognized and authenticated saying, "Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet." He's a fucking badass motherfucker, dude. He's a bad motherfucker. Also, he met with like Iraqi leadership, insurgent leadership, and he said, "I come in peace. I didn't bring artillery, but I'm pleading you with tears in my eyes. If you fuck with me, I'll kill you all." That's so based. No better friend, no worse enemy. What a fucking king. And I'm not going to lie. When it was announced that he was going to be the Secretary of Defense, I was like, okay, there will be an adult in the room. But when James Mattis said Trump is a fucking child, an incompetent child, I believe him. I believe him. If I had 1,000 times the opportunity to bet my life on a man, and it was either James Mattis or Donald Trump, I would pick James Mattis 1,000 times out of 1,000. That's how confident I am in the man, especially compared to Trump.
Of these detention centers, I mean, the budget is now sent from...
In Morristown, New Jersey, on the tarmac Sunday before boarding Air Force One.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you're looking for problems, the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
So that's President Trump before there was any evidence revealed. After Utah Governor Cox says we have to be very clear this is the work of one person. I mean, for example, when Timothy McVeigh blew up the Oklahoma City building and killed over 160 people, people didn't say they're going to go after white Christian men. But what about what Trump, what Stephen Miller is doing and saying they're going after leftist organizations? They're talking about flag burning.
Yeah. When was the last flag burning? I don't remember one. Well, it's all fictitious. They've already started going after these organizations, but this has given them a green light to lift all constraints.
I really hate these people.
Thank you, Zenith.
Because there is a legitimate criticism against a lot of Trump's rhetoric in regards to, I don't know if you saw it. I'm surprised they didn't play that clip because it was like a lot more weird. The clip of, it was after.
Mad Money Max says, did you see that after the panel, Pisco said he was trashing your performance when he came in late and he was editing and not paying attention? Who gives a shit? Pisco's criticism will not undo my criticism, which was he was trying to win the conversation and he was being smug as fuck. And if you talk to leftists, if you talk to socialists, communists, progressives, you ask them, what's like the biggest problem with fucking liberals? And they'll say they're smug, they're self-righteous, they think they're right, even when they're wrong. They don't listen to fucking anybody else. And if you challenge them on something that they're wrong on, they say, well, we're the bigger part of the party, so you can go fuck yourself and we don't care about your opinion. Tell me that was not emblematic of Pisco's performance last night. If he came in with like an inquisitive perspective where he was like, listen, because he said like, I just want to understand. I just want to understand. I just want to understand. No, he didn't want to understand. He wanted to dunk on illogical lefties who did not agree with his political position. And he wanted to make them look like idiots in front of a few hundred people. That's what he wanted to do. He didn't want to understand. He wanted to make them look stupid. And I think that even though I was editing and I wasn't paying attention to the full conversation, I think that's exactly what Pisco was doing. He didn't want to understand them. He wanted to make them look stupid.
After Pam Bondi said that they're going to go after hate speech, and a lot of people, including people on the right, were like, what the fuck? I'm going to go after hate speech. And then Trump is like asked, responding to some reporter, and he says that like hate speech is when reporters like hate him or something.
He doesn't.
And people
even
were
know
like,
what
I was like,
hate speech
yeah, I
is.
was like, wait, what? You're saying that you're going to go after like, what do you, like, what's going on here? Like, you're saying you're going to go after people like reporters that just don't like you? Like, what the fuck? To me, like clips like that are a lot more like, oh, like, what are we doing here? To like put that at criticism and stuff. But instead, we get these organizations like Democracy Now! Who are just so dishonest. And I saw one of the Crestines, I don't know, whatever the fuck their name is on X, also being so hyper dishonest about the Antifa thing, which is, Trump is labeling Antifa a terrorist organization, which is true, which is 100% true. This is now, I haven't really been keeping up with them, so I haven't really heard a lot about them. I don't know what they're doing nowadays, but obviously 4 or 5 years ago, they was very well known that people would dress up in, black outfits, the whole black bloc shit. They get riot shields and garbage can lids and, clubs and all this other shit. They go into get into street fights with people. They would try to set fires to things. They throw bricks at people. They try to set up the autonomous zones during the BLM stuff. Like, those are people that are radical, far left.
Timothy Douglas says, but would you agree that MAGA used a popular vote win for Trump as a cudgel to support their power grabs? Yeah, of course.
Extremists who are totally fine enacting violence in order to achieve their stupid LARPing ideas about having America be some sort of socialist anarchist country, and labeling those groups as terrorists is completely justified. Those groups should not be allowed to function. It's insane that we allow those groups to function for as long as we have. And this fucking gaslighting that a lot of these far left people or alt left people are doing, where they just pretend like, well, there's no such thing as Antifa. I don't know what this is. It's imaginary. It's fictitious. These people that are all dressing up in black, it's just your imagination. You just blink. You drank too much Benadryl and you're seeing the fucking Hat Man and the Antifa man in your house. They're not real. They're just scarecrows. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay. I'm with Sitch to a point, okay? Which is that I do think that some liberals, some progressives, some lefties what they do is they play cute with the Antifa label. And what I mean by that is that we're all talking about black bloc. We know we're talking about black bloc, okay? This is what we're referring to when we're talking about Antifa. We're talking about people with improvised weapons, with clubs, with maces, covered masks, improvised shields, showing up to protests and beating the fuck out of people. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about Antifa, okay? And so when people are like, what? You don't like Antifa? You don't like being anti-fascist? We obviously think that you're fucking sweeping for this organization. Where Sitch loses me is that by designating them a domestic terrorist organization, aren't you effectively allowed to have like unlimited criminal enforcement against them? And by the way, I don't care if the FBI or local law enforcement or state law enforcement does intel gathering operations and infiltration operations in order to arrest these people for crimes. That's not my fear or anxiety. My fear or anxiety is that we use the war on terror, the anti-jihadist war on terror, in order to justify indefinitely incarcerating these kinds of people in Guantanamo Bay style situations, and then we laugh about it. Because that's how we lose a republic. Okay? I hate these twats just as much as any sane person does. Okay? But here's a picture of January 6th. If we're going to incarcerate these people in Guantanamo Bay style, Guantanamo Bay lack of due process, then guess what? All of the rioters, all of the people who were citizens who broke into the Capitol and fought cops, they should be incarcerated. However Antifa is treated is exactly how the January 6th rioters need to be treated. Okay? What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah, they take over entire city blocks, and it's just like, oh, that's just your imagination. Of course, This is totally fictitious. This isn't going on.
And we've seen, a bill was the Florida, what was his name, Best or Most, I don't remember this, in the House, where groups that supposedly provide material support to terrorism.
A.K. Batisui says, or Connor, you could both act like 40-year-olds who can sit down and talk for more than 2 hours. Guess what? If you want to have a conversation, okay, where we talk about the definition of fascism, where we talk about Trump's genuine efforts to subvert the Republic of the United States, if you want to talk about all of the harm that he's done through the electoral process, if you want to talk about all that kind of shit, I'm game. I love ideas. I love talking about crazy ideas with crazy, spicy people, okay? However, if you want to say, well, I can't even have this conversation with you because you've accepted money from Democrats. Therefore, you're a hypocrite, and therefore, you're not an honest actor. If you want to litigate my personal morality, we'll fight like children, okay? I can articulate my morality. I can articulate how MAGA betrayed everything I care about in reference to Republican philosophy and conservative philosophy. I can articulate how Trump is an authoritarian fucking piece of shit who would be a fascist if he knew what the word meant. I can articulate all that kind of shit. So if you want to talk about ideas, let's talk about ideas. If you want to talk about my character, then I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Right? Makes sense? The only thing that I've attacked Adam's character on is the fact that I think he's pusillanimous. That's the main thing that I've attacked Adam on, is I think he's audience captured and pusillanimous. Okay. ReadMe45 says, can we possibly redo the political corporatism picture so I don't know, a bit more family friendly? Nope. We're going to leave the twig and berries right there.
Can have their citizenship revoked. Remember Tom Cotton, right after 9/11, wanted to prosecute or go after mainstream media organizations, AP, CNN, the New York Times, for using pictures, graphic pictures from October 7th and from the genocide. So the process has already begun. Universities such as Columbia have already capitulated. And CBS is about to be turned over to a rabid Zionist and Bari Weiss, if everything goes through. We've already seen that assault, but now...
Bari Weiss is taking over CBS? What? Is that happening?
That's
interesting.
I don't think he means Barry Weiss, but...
This...
Oh, wait, no.
AF Racing says, Connor, Mein Kampf is the only book Trump has ever personally confirmed that he's read, so he might be a fascist knowingly. Truth be told, though, Mein Kampf is not good at articulating fascist philosophy. Mein Kampf is just a Hitler bitching about early 20th century German politics, how they lost World War I, how the Treaty of Versailles was unfair, and how Jews have profited off of the misery of the German people. That's, I mean, I read like 60, 70% of Mein Kampf and then I got bored. That's it. It never talks about political corporatism. It never talks about flexible authoritarianism. It never talks about like the structure of government. The only thing that it says is that he was afraid of international socialism, which he viewed as a Jewish plot. And so he believed that nationalism was going to be destroyed and that effectively we were going to become cappuccino debt slaves. That's what Hitler was worried about. And so he didn't want to be a cappuccino debt slave. And so he viewed co-opting socialism, the word socialism, but injecting it with German ultranationalism was the way to save Germany. So he didn't actually articulate fascism particularly well in Mein Kampf.
I'm wrong. It was Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss closed on a major role at CBS News.
Wow.
There you
go. Because I thought she was selling her company for millions of dollars.
Barry Weiss has spent the past few years leading the Free Press, a scrappy online media startup that was founded as a rebuke to traditional news organizations. Now she's closing on a leadership role at CBS News.
Yeah, she's look up how much she's going to get for Free Press. I think it's in the millions. I'm certain of it. So that's a nice payday. I'm gonna go over to this other Democracy Now! Clip that's totally insane.
True. Conservatism says you don't have to understand fascism on a philosophical level to be a fascist. Philosophy is explanatory of the human condition. Some people embody things they don't understand. That's actually an excellent point. That's an excellent point. But I think the reason why I would say it the way that I said it, though, is because I think that if I walked into a room of contrarian right-wingers and I said, hey, Trump's a fascist, they would be like, oh, you think everyone's a fascist. You know, you think everybody's a Nazi. You think this, you think that. They wouldn't actually listen to me explain political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism, Giovanni Gentile, Benito Mussolini, and Adolf Hitler. They wouldn't listen to me explain that shit and then be like, oh, yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? You're right. Based off of your description of fascism, seems like Trump is philosophically a fascist. Like, they would never make that concession. So I think that's why I caveat it with Trump's too stupid to be a fascist, because then they understand, like, I don't think that Trump is like Hydra. You know, I don't think Trump is like a Marvel cartoon movie. I think Trump is a dog chasing cars who happens to embody bad ideas, you know? So let's give them like one more point to make, and then I'm probably going to wrap on this segment. We'll move it to the next one.
Any deal is expected to put the price tag for the Free Press at over $100 million.
$100 million.
Look at that.
Oh, there's this crazy lady that they bring in. I don't know if this might be the wrong clip, unfortunately. Damn it.
There was some story. I want to see if I can find it. It was like an X thread. That was pretty crazy. Oh, here it is. I'll send it to you if you want to bring it up after whatever you're going to show.
They had some person come in on Democracy Now! And explain away all of the writings on the bullets.
Oh, God. You're kidding me.
As not having anything to do with the left wing, all having to do with right wing and video games. And I was like, what the
I mean, Democracy Now! Is just a complete propaganda organization. All they do is lie.
I can't find it.
DJ Chester says, just got back. Why is Cotter doing Hassan cosplay? Because I was hospitalized maybe about a month ago now. It might be 3 weeks ago, a month ago. I had ischemic colitis, which means that I was so dehydrated that I lost blood flow to my colon. And when you have a precipitous drop in blood pressure in your intestines or colon, your body just sheds everything that's in there. And so as a result, I lost everything in my intestines, including not just the fecal matter, but also blood and the lining, the mucus lining of my intestine. And so for 3 days, I was, I hate to say it, but it's just true. I was losing blood, mucus, and fecal matter through my butt. And I thought I was going to die. It was horrible. It was one of the most horrible hospitalizations I've ever had. And so, of course, I thought it was like butt cancer. I thought it was an intestinal rupture. I thought it was something crazy. Well, it turns out it was just, apparently this just happens to like people who are over the age of 40, especially people who have like blood pressure issues. I don't have that bad of blood pressure issues. I'm just like a little high. I'm like 5 points high some of the time. But that's normally after like drinking caffeine or being stressed out. If I wake up or go to the hospital for like a normal physical, I'm still 120 over 80, but it's something I need to keep an eye on. But the point is that over the age of 40, if you do not take care of your dehydration and you have a blood pressure drop in your lower body, you can cause this issue and it feels like you're dying, but you're not dying. Or at least I didn't die. They gave me morphine. They did a colonoscopy. I survived and it was horrible. But now, whenever I have any lower body alarm going off, I listen to it. So if you guys have to listen to somebody talk for 5 to 10 minutes so I can avoid being hospitalized again, we're going to do that. Sorry, not sorry.
Here, I'll see if I can find it, but we can move on to another clip. You want to watch some of the issue on head?
No.
Nah, I'm good. All right, let's wrap it up right there. Talking about my butt and then ending the segment. I think that's perfect. So in summary, Adam Friended, in my opinion, is still probably as dense as he's ever been. And that's frustrating. I think that he should understand where Donald Trump and people who are against Donald Trump are right now within the country. I think that failing to understand political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism makes the conversation more difficult. I would be happy to have an adult conversation about the ideas. However, if we started having a conversation and he started going along with the personal attacks, then I'm just going to bully the fuck out of him. And like realistically, I would love to be a Sitch and Adam regular. I would love to hang out with Sitch. I would love to hang out with their audience, I guess, because that's realistically the contrarian right, the liberals and centrists and center right wingers who were turned off by the excesses of the left. That's my home. Those are my people. Those are the people who I probably love most in the world. But I think a lot of them have used the excesses of the left as an excuse to become Donald Trump cultists. And I'm not down with that. I think that's very stupid. I think it's very low IQ. I think it's very cringe. So yeah. Now I'm gonna read the super chats. Thank everybody for super chatting. I'm gonna go ahead and read a few more chats from the general chat, and I'm gonna move into the next segment. But I'm gonna go ahead and read all of them because we have about half a dozen right now, a little bit more than half a dozen super chats. So I'm just gonna read those. A quick shill before I do so. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I parasocially love you and thank you for being here. We've been between like 150 and 170 almost the entirety of stream so far. And we've had people who have been very generous with their money for the past month to the point that politics made me more money than Warhammer for the first time in channel history. So massive accomplishment. Thank you guys. Silver for 5 says, sorry to hear about your diagnosis. I also got AIDS from that panel last night and wish my mom snorted Tylenol like all the other moms. True. Fashion 40 for 5 says, your son is effing based for liking Dragon Ball Z. True. Read Me 45 for 5 says, you should buy some extra monitors so you can keep up with chat. I shall, I promise. Gen X for 10 says, I just watched Pisco on my computer at 2 times speed to hear that Comey indictment. I didn't leave here, I promise. Thank you for being a strong member of the community, Gen X. It's deeply appreciated. Christian Blairs for 20 says, yes, they were major sweeping. Please put video on 2 times when you leave us. No. Anonymous chatter. Holy shit. Anonymous chatter. Thank you for being Christian Blairs. Seriously, thank you for all your donations when you got the promotion. That was absolutely insane. And thank you, Anonymous chatter, for like hanging out and super chatting on occasion. But every now and then you just drop a fucking bomb. And I really, really, really appreciate it. Anonymous chatter for 20 says, sorry I'm late, boss. I try to stop being pusillanimous in the future and be on time. 07. Thank you, King. And he gifted, listen to this, 20 counterpoints, politics, Valor Media Network memberships. Fucking insane donation. Thank you, Anonymous. Seriously. Seriously, thank you. Absolutely insane donation. You guys, I'm tearing up a little bit. Like, you're too nice to me. Like, we have fun. I think I try to entertain you, but you guys are super fucking nice, and I really appreciate it. Scrolling. Caught up. All right, I'm going to use this as a benchmark then. Zenith says they switch between sweeping and moral frogging. True. That's the one that I just read. Adam and Sitch chat posters are a mess. True. Now is the time for love. Love will win. Lex Friedman. True. Reed Mises' SharePoint said some wild shit while he was gone. I believe it. I never watched these nerds, but I do remember fondly Sitch screaming at Adam over something Trump related. That was fun. Dude, Sitch is a smart cookie, bro. Sitch is a smart cookie. I think he caters to his audience a bit too much. But you know what? Every now and then he loses his fucking marbles and he's like, fuck you. I'm going in hard. And then he goes in super hard. And every time that Sitch goes in super hard, it's typically super based. Uriel says, yes, it's now the issue about gerrymandering, not when it was on the table to change legislation. Sure. Evan says, see, Connor, you're a man and Matt Walsh is a boy. Well, I like to think so. So I'm still very R-slurred in a lot of ways. I'm still very immature in a lot of ways. But I also like to think that I've done and seen a lot. And so I try not to be a pussy. Uriel says, don't hurt my feelings, guys. I don't like it when I'm not being coddled. I'll work on that, Uriel. Benson Neal says, will people in Dearborn let me make caricatures of Muhammad? Probably not. You'll probably get the shit kicked out of you. I don't think you would get murdered, but you'll probably get the shit kicked out of you. Bub says, just got here scrubbing back through the ketchup. Caught you saying someone was triggered by Doobie. How does your worldview square with this idea that pubescent boys should learn sex by using donkeys? What? I'm assuming that's some fucking cringe panel meme. I hope that's some cringe panel meme. I hope that's not a serious position. If that's a serious position, then ew. Weld says, oh yeah, well, I've moved 11 times because every time I move to a new place, I keep seeing most crime occurs within 10 miles of your home. Wait, I don't think I get that joke, but are you saying that you're the criminal? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I don't know if I understood the joke the way that you wanted me to understand the joke, but the way that I understood the joke was actually pretty funny. Dr. Zaya says, so do you think Democrats just lie to their voters like Trump does? Yeah, sometimes. But I think they do. I don't think they should. Now, that being said, if I have disrespect for the average Republican voter, I absolutely have disrespect for the average Democratic voter too. So I don't know how to say anything polite about it, so I'm just going to move on. Conservatism says, it's not America, the lore versus the America, the reality to me. It's 100% about deferring to a liberal order and the rights of others. Islam is a problem in Europe, period. People don't want it here. I'm sure societies in the Middle East are perfectly functional and polite on their face, but we don't want rape gangs or a nested justice system here. I agree with that, okay, conservative liberalism. However, I think that if you treat Muslims in America, like, by the way, I don't want all of the Middle East and North Africa to move to the United States overnight. I don't. I think that would be a fucking disaster. However, I do think that with the Muslims here, you have three options. You can ignore them. That's an option. And for most people, that's probably going to be the best option. You can treat them like shit, like they're enemies, like they're terrorists in waiting, like they're assholes, like they're pieces of shit, like that they personally endorse every single crime that Osama bin Laden ever did. That's another option. The third option is being fucking nice and engaging with them. Because the truth is, if you're a religious person, waking up and praying 5 times a day shouldn't be a crime. It's scary because they're doing it in Arabic, but praying to the God of the universe should be viewed as a good thing. Being married and being loyal to your family and taking care of your kids and having a large extended family, those are good things from like a religious, social, conservative perspective. And so while they speak a scary language, and while some of them are crazy, zealous, violent pieces of shit, the truth is most of them are probably super fucking nice normies. And so if you choose, and you don't have to, I'll do it on your behalf. If you choose to be nice to Muslims, then you just go have dinner with them. Go hang out. talk about politics, talk about the world, talk about culture, talk about booze, talk about relationships, talk about drugs, talk about this, talk about that. And I have maybe half a dozen Muslim friends that I've made throughout my life. And the truth is, they're all pretty bad Muslims. I'm not going to lie. And what I mean by that is they were, while still being active members of their community and family and loving their community and family, they were religious hypocrites to some degree. They either engaged in premarital sex, they drank alcohol, they like to party, they like to do drugs, they like to enjoy degenerate American pop culture, all that kind of stuff. And so they would retreat to the Muslim conservatism in order to make their family happy. But realistically, their public lives when they were away from their family were pretty American. Like, they had premarital sex, they drank alcohol, they listened to pop music. I have a feeling that not every Muslim is like that. Some of them probably take their faith super seriously and are super conservative. However, there's cool Muslims, so just be cool to them and they'll be cool back most of the time. Vets O'Neill says, how are liberals not improving wages, life, child tax credit, UBI, UBI didn't get passed. Public health option under the Dems support these ideas. What else do they have? There's a lesser of two evils. I already said there's a lesser of two evils, bro. You don't need to tilt at windmills, okay? You don't need to tilt at windmills. You will own nothing. You will create nothing. You are nothing. Yeah. Frank is a millionaire. Frank's a multi-millionaire. That, like, Frank lives a degenerate lifestyle because he feels like it. So, whore. Vince Neal says, taking too much psychic damage from politics. I'm going to take a week break from this shit. Somebody tell me when Doobie shows up. DM me on Discord. I'll show up. All right. Shut up, baby dick. Yeah, exactly. I'm super far behind in chat if I'm just catching up with you guys seeing the funny clip. God, what a great season and what a great episode. Not So Gen X says, okay, guys, I'm logged onto YouTube on my computer into my main account, but my alt account is commenting. How do I fix it? Oh, I have no idea. Sorry. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I'll continue to read chat, but we're going to move into the next segment just because I want to keep it moving for you guys, and I parasocially love those of you who are continuing to hang out. Somebody else did do a super chat. Colbia says, glad you're feeling better. What's the status of your Star Wars content? It's live. Now, it might not be exactly what you want. Colbius, if you are interested in Star Wars at all, please, God, become one of my viewers. Okay? So go to YouTube. All right? We're going to do a step-by-step Star Wars shill. Type in, ooh, that looks pretty. MP7 alternative. Keltec CMR 30 is a 22 caliber. It looks good. This looks cool. This looks like the SMG from Halo, but it's 22. That's fucking lame. All right. Anyways, go to your YouTube search bar. Type in Counterpoints Star Wars. All right. Now, despite only having 200 subscribers, my breakdowns of the Old Republic cinematics are old, but they did really well. So, 500 views, 300 views, 500 views, 700 views. Now, I started breaking down the Acolyte, and the first one did okay, 150 views on a 200 sub channel. The second one did not do as good. And I think it's because it has a woman in it. And I think because everybody who's seen the Acolyte or not seen the Acolyte has seen this scene. So I think not a lot of people are into it. But I still think I do quite a good job with lore breakdowns. So if you could pretty please, whoever asked me about the... for whoever asked me about Star Wars, if you could please go sub to the channel, watch the content, leave a like, leave a comment, I would be greatly appreciative. Because I understand a lot of Star Wars people hate the Acolyte, but I'm trying to go through Star Wars content in chronological order, and I'm trying to take the 2 or 3 cool fights in the Acolyte and break those down with lore. I understand the Acolyte deserves hate. I understand Disney Star Wars deserves hate, but I'm just telling you that that's what I'm going to do. So please and thank you. All right, let's get, it was Ezra Klein and Ben Shapiro. These guys are hitters. So I understand, like, maybe I should watch it through Destiny or whatever. But
last week, Charlie Kirk.
I don't want to. Maybe should I commentary his commentary? You guys tell me. You guys tell me. Let me scroll to the bottom. Okay. Sorry if I missed your comments, but I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Do you guys want me to cover Destiny's coverage of Ezra Klein and Ben Shapiro, or do you want me to watch the original content? Well, if you don't want to watch it again, Jesus, guys, you can't suggest content and then be like, I can't do it again. I can't do it. Okay, so did he do the first half or the second half? Okay, we got somebody who said original. Do the meta. You want to do the meta commentary? Let's do the meta commentary. Why not? Ladder. Well, I didn't suggest it. Well, you're going to suffer, Ebed. You're going to suffer. Oh, this is 3 hours. Jesus Christ.
I got to say.
Original is so rage bait, it's unwatchable. Be a man and take charge. Destiny, please. If I want Destiny's coverage, I would be on his channel watching it already. All right. Hold on. I'm going to honor.
Last week, Charlie Kirk was.
I'm going to honor. There's 2 or 3 people complaining because I said, I've already watched it. I don't care. Okay?
Last week, Charlie Kirk.
I'm sorry, but that's your fault for being too aggressive with your content consumption, okay? I would watch the Destiny one because I would like to contend with Destiny's arguments. But I think that the people that I trust the most, like Kay, are saying, watch the original. And I think it is true that people want, like, your commentary, not your commentary on somebody else's commentary. So I'm going to go ahead and Squad Wiper says, be a man and take charge. I'm going to be a man and take charge. And I'm going to say, I think it's better content if I watch the original and do my own commentary. So I'm going to watch the original and do my own commentary. So, hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor. I'm a science. Fuck that up. Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and I would argue a real Republican, somebody who actually holds Republican values, unlike a large chunk of the Republican Party these days. I'm going to be breaking down Ezra Klein versus Ben Shapiro. I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to argue whatever they're presenting that I think is wrong. I'm going to laud anything that I think is good. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Last week, Charlie Kirk was murdered while speaking at Utah Valley University. His murder has shaken me pretty deeply. In the days after his assassination, when I would...
Guys, I'm going to be real. I think that if Charlie Kirk's assassination really flustered you, then you weren't paying attention. I'm not going to lie. Like, we had the Charlottesville truck attack. We had the Dylan Roof murders in Charleston, South Carolina. We had the Parkland shooting. We had this mass shooting. We had that mass shooting. If that was your first time seeing a jugular get ruptured by a 30-06 and you're involved in politics, I think you're intellectually pusillanimous and you don't know what politics are. I'm learning that a lot of people who are involved in politics don't know what violence is, which is disappointing.
Close my eyes. I just kept imagining a bullet going through a neck. But it disturbed me in a different way when I would...
Come on, bro.
Open my eyes and look online to see some of Kirk's allies declaring war, insisting that normal politics had failed, that the time to cleanse this country of the radical left, whatever that means, had come. When I'd see some of Kirk's critics mocking or reveling in his murder, sharing clips of his worst moments, suggesting in one way or another that he deserved this, that we were better off. This was not everybody. It was not most of us. It never is. But the nature of online algorithms means that it makes for a lot of what the most politically engaged see of each other. You could feel the temperature rising.
These people need to be defeated, not reasoned with.
You have the... Okay. I want to interact with the intro, but let's say that Steven did the first hour. We can skip to the second hour. That way it's more like a complete show of the original. And by the way, Megyn Kelly doing this.
Feel the temperature rising.
These people need to be defeated, not reasoned with.
You have
So fucking cringe, dude. So cringe that these people, like, we have an opportunity here. Okay. Political podcaster, political operative gets shot in the neck. Politics is pretty extreme right now. The Trump admin is doing all sorts of crazy shit. We have the opportunity to say, okay, things are getting a little crazy. Let's cool things down. And instead, the right wing goes, you know what? Nah, one of us got shot. We're going to triple down. And it's like, all right, we'll see how that works out for you. It's a bold strategy.
the crazies on the far left who are saying, oh, Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance, they're going to go after constitutionally protected speech. No, we're going to go after the NGO network that foments, facilitates, and engages in violence.
In my life,
what NGO network that engages in violence? Or are we pretending that words are violence now? Because I'm just going to say it. As long as there's a First Amendment of the United States, I'm going to say what constitutionally protected speech, okay? I think that based off of the evidence that Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's friend for 3 decades, all the way up through 2003, that he allowed an underage girl to be poached from his spa, and that he wrote him a love letter in 2003 talking about how they shared some wonderful secret together, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the president of the United States was an ephebophilic man who engaged with underage prostitutes that he knew to be sex trafficked. I believe that to be true. That is constitutionally protected speech. And if I'm being uncharitable, because I believe that Donald Trump had sex with girls aged 14 to 17, I think that while libertarians can call him an ephebophile because he's attracted to post-pubescent girls, I use the lay term, which is pedophile, because he could not get consent for underage sex workers. Therefore, it would technically be rape. And so I'm going to say the president of the United States, I believe, raped teenagers. That's constitutionally protected speech. You can say it inflames the country. You can say it inflames national discourse. I believe it to be true. So if the truth inflames the world, then it is your duty to speak the truth. Same thing with fascism, which I have already defined as political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism. The Trump regime has engaged in flexible authoritarianism. They've tried to defy the courts. They've tried to defy the Constitution. They tried to overthrow the peaceful transfer of power over unproven allegations of outcome-determined voter fraud. Donald Trump himself said that he would be willing, the voter fraud was so extensive that he would be willing to throw out rules and regulations up to and including the Constitution of the United States. I think that statement, without proof of outcome-determinative massive voter fraud, is traitorous to the United States. Is that inflammatory? Does that increase the temperature? You're right. It's also the truth. So yes, if you flirt with fascism, if you quote Goebbels, if you try to go around the courts of the United States, if you try to go around the Constitution of the United States, if you believe in political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism, if you describe yourself as a post-liberal, dissident right-wing person, as the Vice President of the United States has described himself, then I'm going to say that you're flirting with fascism. That's my constitutionally protected right as an American to articulate the truth as I see it. And I'm not, no one, not Jimmy Kimmel, not stand-up comedians, not politicians, not news coverage people. No one should be backing down from articulating the truth as they see it, particularly in this Orwellian, fucked up, dystopian moment in American politics. It is in my opinion, now I'm joking, that all of that was serious. Let me make a joke. I think it's your constitutionally required duty to call the president an F slur today on Twitter, on Facebook. I think it's your constitutionally protected duty to insult the government. Do it. It's your freedom. It's your right. It's your free speech. And anybody who says otherwise can go fuck themselves. Thank you. J.D. Vance. Here's one more thing. J.D. Vance. Show me a PFT where you did more than 12 pull-ups. Show me a PFT where a physical fitness test. He was a Marine. Show me a physical fitness test where you did more pull-ups. Otherwise, people should be listening to me and not you. I got my 20. I have a PFT with 20 pull-ups on it. I should be vice president, not you.
I don't think we have ever felt as close as we do now to some kind of violent national rupture. Because it's not just Kirk. In the last few years, a bullet nearly ended Donald Trump's life. A man tried to burn Josh Shapiro and his family alive in their home. A man broke into Nancy Pelosi's home to kidnap her. And when he didn't find her, he fractured her 82-year-old husband's skull with a hammer. The former speaker of the Minnesota House and her husband were assassinated. The CEO of United Healthcare was gunned down in Midtown Manhattan, and many lionized his killer. Violence is viral. It infects, it spreads. Violence is combustible. It blazes into civil wars, into world wars, into totalitarian turns. Who knows which spark will light the wildfire? In the hours after Kirk's murder, trying to process my own shock, my own fear, I wrote a piece about him. In that piece, I said, you can disagree with virtually everything Kirk believed about politics. You can detest some of what he believed about politics and still believe that he was there on that stage, practicing politics the right way.
All right, we're going to get started, everybody. You know how it works.
Showing up to college campuses and trying to persuade people who disagreed with him.
Okay. You know what? That's descriptively true. Let's just let it ride.
We're going to be here for a couple hours. Get comfortable. Bring the best libs that Utah has to offer.
I said that I had often wished my own side exhibited more of that spirit, that we went more often to the places where we knew people would disagree with us and talked to them, treated that disagreement as the beginning of a conversation rather than the end of one. I've published a lot of pieces over the years. I'm not sure I've published any with this polarizing reaction.
DJ Chester says, hey, Connor, sorry jumping through the timeline on my way to work. Sorry about your gut. I was just being a little cheeky. It's all love. Nope. I parasocially love you too. The DJ Chester, sorry if I went on like a long health related rant, but you know, I'm just gonna be real again. It's scary being mortal. Okay. I don't know why it was God's idea to put us in giant water balloons and make us conscious. You know, it wasn't my idea. I just showed up here one day. I was just like, oh shit, I'm conscious. Oh shit, the world's crazy. Oh shit, I'm a water balloon that can be popped at any time. And I don't know why we're mortal. You know, ideally, I would love to be immortal. I would like to live forever. I would love to be talking about politics and space colonization and religion and spirituality 1,000 years from now. Now, unfortunately, that's not my lot. I am a mortal man. I probably got another 30, 40 years left in me, which is fine. That's okay. I hate it. I hate it, but I probably got another 40 years left. So the point though is that going through that experience was scary, which was being hospitalized, losing a lot of my lower intestinal contents, including blood. For 3 days. That was genuinely scary. I thought that I could have cancer. I thought that I could have like an intestinal rupture. I thought that it could be something serious. And I was very lucky that it wasn't, right? I was very lucky that it wasn't something that's actually going to kill me. But I think that knowing that that's eventually my fate, that something serious will happen, I will go to a hospital for several days. And then if I'm lucky, I'll have the opportunity to choose to either die in the hospital or die at home. It just kind of puts a serious emphasis on things where I have to listen to my body. I have to work out. I have to go on walks. I have to play with my kids. I can't eat trash all the time. And when my body tells me something through a bodily signal, I should not ignore it. I should just take care of it. And I know that's annoying, and I know I'm being overly serious about your throwaway joke. But yeah. I don't mind you throwing a playful jab and then me being autistic about it. So it's all love on my end as well. Also, can you guys answer? So I'm up with DJ Chester at 12:30 and it's currently 12:39. Can I just get a response in chat whether or not Destiny covered the first half or the second half? Because if he covered the first half, I'll cover the second half. We'll be holistic that way.
Action is that one. A lot of people appreciated it, particularly on the right. They felt it saw their friend and their ally more the way they saw him. And there were many people closer to my own politics who were truly infuriated by it. Privately and publicly, they offered the worst things Kirk has said and done, starting a watch list of leftist professors, busing people to the protests that led to the January 6th insurrection.
Tyler Pham says, bro, you said this right before stream got banned last time. Truth hurts.
Telling his political foes that they should be deported, saying the Democratic Party hates this country, saying the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. I had friends say to me, look, we can oppose political violence without whitewashing this guy. I spent some time thinking about that over the weekend. Also just spent some time thinking, trying to work through how I'm feeling. And my reaction, honestly, is that it is too little to just say we oppose political violence. In ways that surprised me, given what I thought of Kirk's project. I was and am grieving for Kirk himself. Not because I knew him. I didn't. Not because he was a saint. He wasn't. Not because I agreed with him. No.
Beef Supreme says, I'm almost 40 and can still do 20 pull-ups. If you don't want to dox yourself or do want to dox yourself, you don't have to send me anything. Show me 20 dead hang pull-ups. That's crazy. That is genuinely crazy. If you can do 20, so you can have, in my opinion, a full lockout is with the elbow locked out. I don't think you need to do that for a real pull-up. You can go to like 90%, 95% lockout and brace right there. And I think that's fine. And then if you can do chin ups or pull-ups where you start from a 95% lockout with no kipping, meaning that you don't use the momentum of your legs in order to get above the bar, and you can use your muscles, either your biceps and back or your back and like your lats, which is part of your back, right? But either majority lats and back or majority biceps and back. If you can do 20 almost dead hang pull-ups at 40, that's fucking impressive, dude. Genuinely, that's impressive.
Most of what he poured himself into trying to achieve, I pour myself into trying to prevent. But I find myself grieving for him because I recognize some commonality with him. He was murdered for participating in our politics. Somewhere beyond how much divided us, there was something that bonded us too. Some effort to change this country in ways that we think are good. I believe this so strongly that we have to be able to see that the bullet that tore into him was an act of violence against us all. I actually believe that. I don't know how to express this thought exactly. The nature of our politics right now, the truth of it, is that it is ferocious.
Beef Supreme says, after I lost everything in my intestines, did I have the feeling of being empty? Yes. And luckily for me, I've maintained that feeling. It feels awesome.
That our visions of what is good, our visions just of what is decent, have diverged. The stakes of our politics right now are frightening to me. The consequences for people are very real. We see each other as threats, and to some degree, we are right. And it is somehow also true. It is true at the same time that we will be immeasurably worse off if that is all we are to each other.
Anonymous for 20. Thank you, King. Can we all take a moment to show Connor some love with some hearts in chat for being an awesome man and let him know that a little bit of time we get to spend with him every day is meaningful to us too? Well, dude, thank you. Thank you. I love this job, dude. I love this job. This job is waking up, taking psychic damage on your behalf, but I think trying to be entertaining and trying to be insightful and trying to share my thoughts. The fact that you guys have supported this so aggressively to the point that, we're not there yet, but we're very close. Like, if we have this kind of month going forward, I'm full-time for the rest of my life. If we have better months going forward, then I'm going to be, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to be too snide. I could still end up quitting or something, or getting injured or having a stroke, or something terrible could happen. I'm knocking on wood right now. But if this is indicative of future growth, we're going to fucking kill it, dude. We're going to kill it. So thank you, Anonymous. Genuinely appreciated.
We are going to have to live here with each other. There will be no fever that breaks. There will be no permanent victory that routs or quiets those who disagree with us.
A Clips channel title called Stolen Valor. That'd be sick.
I've watched many on both sides entertain this illusion that there would be, either through the power of social shame and cultural pressure, or the force the state can bring to bear on those it seeks to silence. It won't work. It can't work. It would not be better if it did. That would not be a free country. Much of what I would
Ooh. Beef Supreme says, I'm 38. Don't forget, I'm Swift Water Rescue certified. That's base. That's base too. Andy B says, YouTube could solve like 90% of their problems by just requiring everybody posting videos to have YouTube Premium. Based. It's like having 1 strike rule for some and 50 strike rule for others. Yeah, sure. I'm with you. Like, I don't think I Fed posted. So I don't think I Fed posted. I just said, if you haven't seen stuff like this before, I think you have ignored what politics is for a long time.
describe as Kirk's worst moments were now just standard fare MAGA republicanism. And the leader of MAGA republicanism is the president of the United States. He is in the White House, having won about half the country's votes in the last election. We are going to have to live here with each other, believing what we believe, disagreeing in the ways we disagree. To recognize that does not mean we downpedal those disagreements. It does not mean we are not appalled or afraid.
All right, hold on. I actually caught up with chat. Can somebody who watched the Destiny segment tell me if he did the first half or the second half?
Of what our neighbors say and want. But I think it means that we do more than that too. I think we also have to be looking for what we can recognize in each other. And yeah, in some moments, I think that might mean overlooking what we can't recognize in each other. I worry about how hard social media
Okay, so let's do the second half after the intro.
makes that now. It's not just that it flattens us down to single moments, but that it parcels out different flattened moments to different audiences. We are shattered inside the algorithm, and the shards of us sent flying out into the world. Instead of being complex to each other, we become incomprehensible, almost unimaginable.
Okay, I'm good. That's very artistic and scavengers on the left and right. I'm assuming they're talking smack about people. So I'll go straight to Shapiro's views on Trump, and I'm sure that that'll be enough. Sign of Trump's executive overreach. Oh, snap moment. Trump on immigration. I'm good with that.
This is something that you sort of gestured at, but why don't we do it as a way to set up this part of the conversation? You were very, very opposed to Trump in 2016, wrote a piece about how you would never support him, over time shifted. You've talked about this publicly.
National Review where I said, like, here's what he could do to earn my support at the same time, but yes, he did many of those things, to be fair. But
yeah,
yes.
So talk me through it. Talk me through your evolution on Trump.
Sure. So when he came along, I made several critiques of Trump. Some were character-based, some were sort of personality-based, some were critiques of people he was letting into the movement. I thought that the expansion of the Overton window for the right, well, I think somewhat necessary. I think that it was overexpanded, and I think that there, as I said at the beginning, some clowns in the tent. But when it comes to his actual policy, I assumed that he would be as heterodox in his politics as he had been in his campaign, which is to say he was on every side of every issue, and you kind of saw in him what you wanted to see. Was he going to be
Dang, Ben's looking a little haggard. And I'm not hating because I'm going to be there pretty soon, but look at this. His eyebrow lines are a little tough. His eye lines are a little tough. And I mean, this isn't to hate. I mean, he's looked like a baby boy for most of his life. So the fact that he actually has some like scars of aging and manhood, I mean, good for him. But dang, bro, looking a little haggard there, Ben. You need to get some more sleep. Whew. That's a little tough. Yeah.
conservative on social policy, or was he going to carry around a gay pride flag? Was he going to be a person who was staunchly pro-life, or was he going to be a sort of New York pro-choicer? Was he going to be somebody who was in favor of strong Second Amendment rights, or was he going to be, maybe do some gun control? Was he industrial policy guy, or was he free markets guy? Like, he could legitimately take any or all of those sundry positions. Mm-hmm. Were the judges that he appointed going to be along the lines of Clarence Thomas and Antonin Scalia, or was it going to be his relatives? And so my assumption was that he was going to essentially govern almost from the center left, and that many of his policies were not going to align with the things that I wanted. So I wouldn't get what I wanted policy-wise. I thought that he was going to, have a dire effect on the kind of political nature of the country.
Which he has.
And I had objections to his character. Well, I mean, the extent of the rhetoric that he used in 2015, 2016, I think was quite unpleasant and wrong and bad, and I still have objections to. And so, as I said, when I endorsed him in 2020, my character critiques of President Trump didn't change. And many of the things that I thought that were bad that he might bring about, more polarization in politics, for example, that did happen, but I got much better governance than I thought I would. And meanwhile, the left went insane. And so that was sort of why I moved in 2020 was.
I hate that. With like every fiber of my being, I hate that. It's like, so he ruined national discourse. He drove the other side of the political aisle completely insane. He's a corrupt piece of shit, which Ben didn't say, but I'm saying. But I got a few policies that I liked. So realistically, I thought it was better than I expected. I hate that. I hate that with every fiber of my fucking being. That is, whew, talk about like a vulture picking on the corpse of America. That's some diabolical shit. Plague Doctor says, holy hell, Ben got old quick. Wonder if he had the "are we the baddies" moment. I guess, bro. I guess. Well, like maybe sweeping for Trump. Yeah. This is happening. Says Ben, this man has the bottom of the barrel character, but I got to endorse him anyways because of reasons. Dang, bro. Listen, I get it. If you're a social conservative and you think that abortion is murder, then the repeal of Roe v. Wade was a huge W. If you think that having a conservative Supreme Court protects the Second Amendment for generations to come, that's a huge W. If you're talking about having a rip-roaring economy before COVID, that's a huge W. And if you are vaccine skeptical, then having the president simultaneously champion the rollout of vaccines, but then also at least make some vague political gestures to freedom of bodily choice in reference to taking vaccines, that's probably a huge W. So maybe those like 3 or 4 policies for conservatives, they can pretend they're W's, but man, is it covered in like a sewer system of feces and trash. So I frankly would love to hear Ben's like, what were the W's of the 16 Trump presidency? I would be curious to hear them articulate those in contrast to the L's.
The bad things are pretty much baked into the cake. We know what we've got. He gave me more than I thought he would when he gave me, several justices on the Supreme Court who I actually.
Okay, that was one. That was one that I mentioned.
Quite liked when he decided that he was going to push sort of a traditional Republican economic policy with regards to deregulation.
Okay, laissez-faire economics, deregulation, and reduced tax cuts. Which, by the way, some of this stuff I am like diametrically opposed to Ben on, and the reason why is because I think that tax cuts coupled with the slashing of the social safety net is part of our political instability. But I think Ben, because he knows where his bread is buttered, is going to be from the libertarian fiscal conservative. And by the way, fiscal conservatives aren't fiscal conservatives anymore. I don't think fiscal conservatives care about the debt anymore. They only care about tax cuts for upper tax brackets. That's all fiscal conservative means right now. So I get that that's where his bread is buttered. So he's going to cheer that on as a W.
And tax cuts. He pushed a foreign policy that I thought actually was quite excellent. That was the best part of his administration in Term 1. And so I got more than I thought I was going to get. So I changed my opinion because the facts had changed. And then in 2024, again, it came down to a binary choice. In the primaries, I supported Ron DeSantis. When it came down to a binary choice, when it was basically over after Iowa, and now it's a choice between Trump and Biden/Kamala Harris, then that was a clear enough choice where it's like, okay, I'm going to go campaign for the guy because I do not want to see.
This is going to hurt me. I am going to age a decade in the next 20 minutes. This hurts me psychically.
Second Biden presidency or a Kamala Harris presidency. But I think that many of my underlying objections didn't particularly change.
Where are you now? We're 7 months in. What have you liked? What have you not liked?
That is like the most pleasant way. If I was like Ezra Klein, I would be like screaming. I would be like jumping across the table, grabbing Ben Shapiro by his fucking shirt collar and shaking him and being like, why did you do this to us? It was you, Ben. You could have been better. It was you. That's what I'd be doing, but maybe that's why I haven't interviewed Ben Shapiro yet.
I think that his attempts to move more toward meritocracy and away from DEI in sort of federal policy and procedure is good.
Wow. Damn. Out with the push broom, bro.
I think that what he has been doing on foreign policy is shockingly better than I thought that it was going.
All right. I'm just going to go lobotomize myself. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get an ice pick.
Going to be. I was one of the few people on the right who consistently took the position that we ought to continue supporting Ukraine, for example, and he came around to that position.
Within the past week after costing tens of thousands of lives. But okay, Ben. Okay. This is just sweeping. Okay. 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 Guys, it could be worse. Okay. I could be a Harvard graduate sweeping for a pedophile. At least I did not get a Harvard law degree so I could sweep for a pedophile. I still have a good life. I do not need to lobotomize myself.
That maintaining support for Ukraine is a good thing. Obviously, I'm very pro-Israel. I like his Israel policy quite a lot. I think.
Yeah, there you go. That's the real one.
That when it comes to his tariff policy, I've been.
Listen up, liberal. I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't know how to pay my credit card. Angry face.
And vocally anti. When it comes to things like industrial policy in which we're taking stakes in Intel, not a fan. When it comes to his social policy, there hasn't been a lot to say on social policy, frankly, because after Roe versus Wade was rejected, it basically kind of got kicked down to the local level. So you're not seeing a lot there. But I would say that overall more good than bad, but it's a mixed bag. And
overall good than bad. Dude, I just have to say, this is just him knowing where his bread is buttered, bro. That's all it is. That's all it is, which is shocking. It's shocking. It's not shocking. You know what? This is why I haven't engaged with Ben Shapiro content in a long time, is because I didn't want to see a Harvard-educated, JD having, married to a dry genitalia doctor. I didn't want to see a man debase himself for this movement. It actually hurts my feelings. It hurts my feelings on his behalf. I see why the Sith Lords have been draining Ben Shapiro's soul energy to the point that he looks 50 instead of 40. Wow. That's a tough one, Benny boy. That's a tough one. This hurts my feelings on your behalf. More good than bad. That's incredible.
And one of the arguments that the right is constantly having with itself is, do you grade him versus what you would have gotten with Kamala Harris, or do you grade him versus what you want from him as the president? And I always tend to do the latter. I tend to say, here's what I want, here's where I wish he would do better, as opposed to, because all day long you can say, okay, well, it'd been worse with Kamala. I agree. That's why I voted for him. That's why I campaigned for him.
It's interesting.
What would Kamala have done? Listen, I'm trying not to moral frog. I'm really trying not to freak out. But maybe I'm privileged in a way. Okay, I'll admit it. I'm privileged in a way. I have the luxury of caring about the USAID cuts. I have the luxury of caring about the PEPFAR cuts. I have the luxury of caring about Ukraine, and that's because I'm a white straight man. I'm a white straight Christian passing man in America, and so the chances of me getting beaten up for being a sexual or racial minority are super low, and I'm upper working class, lower middle class, I suppose. And so my life is overall pretty good. So I don't really have to give a shit too much about like domestic politics, because the truth is, by the time that domestic politics start fucking me over, the entire country is on fire. So I just don't, man, I don't know how you look at Doge, USAID, PEPFAR, mass deportations, Andre Hernandez Romero, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, defying the courts. I just do not know how we're looking at the same picture. I really don't.
an almost parallel argument on the left, which is, do you talk about Trump as a normal Republican, right? He's a guy who's, cutting Medicaid to fund tax cuts. Or do you talk about Trump as something abnormal, something authoritarian, somebody sort of taking new powers? This is something that at other times you've been very, very alert on. You read about Barack Obama, that he's a man who embodies all the personal characteristics of a fascist leader. You said about Biden that he is an aspiring.
How was Obama fascist? Was Obama flexible, authoritarian, and political corporative? Or was he misusing the word fascist? How is Ben Shapiro, the Harvard-educated, JD having, dry wussy wife having man, describing Obama as a fascist? I would love to hear an expanded quote on that.
Tyrant held back only by the strength of our constitutional structure.
How can you say that with a straight face while voting for Trump?
I would say on both those counts, who has the personal characteristics of a fascist leader, but also who is sort of pushing at the boundaries of constitutional structure, using the power of the government to harass enemies, to create incentives, to punish those who have wronged him, to, force institutions to fold. Trump has been, sort of whatever you think of him, much more creative and aggressive than any president of my lifetime.
I'm not sure he's been much more creative and aggressive than any president.
This hurts my soul. I think the Dark Lords of the Sith have sucked Ben Shapiro's soul out of his ass, and he is dealing with a shard of his soul. How do you look at the fake elector scheme? How do you look at the fake elector scheme and say what you're saying?
President of my lifetime. It depends on the sector. I mean, I'm old enough to remember in 2009 when Barack Obama called bankers on the carpet and said, "I'm standing between you and the pitchforks."
On the left, that was widely understood as him saying, listen, you guys should support reasonable financial regulation because I am trying to keep these people from coming for you. And that was actually.
And that's descriptively true. The wealthiest people in America destroyed the economy and created an economic collapse as large as the Great Depression. So, sorry, that makes Obama a fascist? What the fuck?
True. Well, I mean, the other way to read that is as a tacit threat, which is how you would read it if it came from Donald Trump's mouth. If Donald Trump said to a corporation, "I'm standing with..."
Oh, wow. Amazing, Ben. The triple backspring backflip. This is fucking amazing.
"Between you and the pitchforks, sign on the dotted line," you would read that in the way that I'm reading Barack Obama.
I think
they Yes, Ben. They created toxic financial assets. They knowingly sold those toxic financial assets to other people. They propped up a market that was doomed to collapse. They ran it for 5 to 10 years to the tunes of billions of dollars. They played economic duck, duck, goose. And they were the only people left with chairs when the game ended. And so the people who lost their pensions, the people who lost their houses, the people who took a 50% hit to their IRAs, the people who were not able to retire because of the 2008 collapse, the people who became homeless and had to work from their cars while their families lived out of vans for 3 years until they could get their feet back under them, were correctly angry at the big cats, at the Wall Street fat cats, who had played a dangerous game with the international economy and nearly destroyed capitalism. So that's compared to Donald Trump wanting to overthrow the government and people supporting him because gay people were annoying on the fucking internet. Like, I hate to say it. Like, obviously that's like a straw man of what right-wingers believe the left has done for the past decade. But social media companies were censorious about conservative beliefs, about COVID, and about elections. And then gay progressives were in academia and they were on the internet chastising conservatives, saying that they were bad people because they wouldn't have sex with trans people. And I'm sorry, that warrants an attempt to overthrow the fucking Republic of the United States? How are we comparing these things? I'm baffled. I am baffled.
Rather than, I'm more interested in the things he's actually doing, right? There's an old thing about Trump, and the thing people said about...
I've said before,
this is the thing people said about him
Harris,
in the first...
that guardrails will hold, right? And they have. Meaning the way that the analogy that...
Oh, okay. When Trump does it, but Mike Pence is the last person standing between him and the false elector scheme, Mike Pence did the right thing. No sweat, no problem. Holy shit. Is it painful to be this fucking... Is it painful to intellectualize this stupid of points? It has to be.
I've used about President Trump before and his sort of tendency toward executive power, which has been, to be fair, a growing tendency across administrations of both parties over the course of the last 20 years minimum. The radical devolution of the authority of Congress and turning it into a vestigial organ of government, with which I greatly disagree and think is a massive, humongous problem. When you look at what President Trump has done, what the argument that I will make.
How would you rate... Dan's here, by the way. How would you rate Trump 16 versus Bush 04? I guess. Hi, Dan. I'm gonna bring you up full screen, and I'm gonna punish you for joining my stream.
Thanks, Connor. I appreciate that.
Yeah, let's bring Dan on so he can suffer with us. Hold on. There we go. How would I rate Trump 16 versus Bush 04? So Bush 04. In my opinion, Bush had started the war on terror and just invaded Iraq, and Iraq was kind of being, hailed by the media as a quagmire. And so we were kind of at like I would say, arguably the peak of Bush's unpopularity, although the 2008 financial crisis, I think he technically pulled lower than Bush 04. And I was actually surprised when Bush won in 04. But with Trump 16, maybe you couldn't see all the bad things, in my opinion, that Trump was going to do in 16, but I feel like the writing was on the wall. So I feel like Bush suffers because he had a major catastrophic geopolitical decision that was going to cost trillions of dollars and cost thousands, if not tens of thousands of American lives. And so I think at that point, like Trump 16, I hate to say this, Trump 16 seems less offensive to me than Bush 04. But I think that's only because we didn't know what was in store from Trump 21. Trump 20 and Trump 24. So yeah. Anyways, do you want to comment on any politics, or do you want to go do our thing?
We do know how the war on terror played out. We know how the invasion of Iraq played out. We know how all of that went. And so 2004, it's impossible to see without, I think, a little bit of whatever the opposite of rose-colored glasses on, like shit-colored glasses, right? You're like, well, that all went badly. And I agree with you. I don't get into politics much, but I will agree with you that at the end of the first Trump term, you would not have necessarily seen all the things that are coming out now in terms of the direction things went. And I think there's something about the trial between the two terms that kind of pushed him over the edge that way and has made him do a lot of shit that we didn't see before for whatever reason. So yeah, I agree with your assessment. How's that? That at the end of 16, I would have said that Trump came out looking better. But again, I got my own shit colored glasses from the GWAT, so I'm not sure that I can say that.
No, I'm with you. And then conservatism's financial crisis wasn't there in 04. Yeah, like it kicked off in 7 and 8. It's late second term, and Obama had to patch it up. Maybe I missed something there. No, you didn't miss anything. All I was trying to say was that I think Dan's right. I'm looking at the Bush admin through poop-tinged glasses. And so as a result, I'm judging Bush on his worst sins. And I would say his worst sins were allowing the financial, which by the way, he didn't have his hand on the wheel. So like he didn't even know that the 2008 real estate financial bubble was about to burst. Now there were warning signs, but the economy was still humming until the bubble popped. So, but I think that looking at his presidency, he is most known for probably 3 or 4 disasters. One of them is the war on terror. One of them is the 2008 financial collapse. And then the other one I would say is mismanaging Hurricane Katrina. I think those were like the 3 disasters that Bush was known for. And so that's what he was criticized in retrospect. But at the same time, I feel like on a personal level, I never felt like Bush would try to overthrow the Republic of the United States, or he wouldn't try to step down from power if he lost an election. I never had that fear with him. And so with me now looking at, Trump 16, before we know he's going to do all the crazy shit, in Trump 16, a lot of people voted for Trump as a shitpost. They voted for him to say, the establishment hasn't worked for me for decades. Fuck you. Deal with this, DC. And then they sent Trump to DC in order to fuck with Washington, DC. I think comparing that to post January 6, 2021, post COVID, and especially post this past year, I view Trump as an infinitely more nefarious character than I do Bush. Bush fucked up, but I don't think Bush is evil. So
I do like the chat comment with the Patriot Act in it, though. That is one thing that I'm not a fan. I'm super not a fan of. Patriot Act was a really bad gateway drug into a lot of the things, and it was unfortunate that it kind of happened. So yeah, I think that was a astute comment. That was a pretty shitty thing you did.
A lot of sorry, I'm going to exit this video over here. We can just chat about this for a second before we go into doing our thing. AKA about a story says TSA garbage. Listen, guys, taking off your fucking shoes and stepping in front of an x-ray machine that takes 3 seconds in order to fucking get through. I don't give a fuck about that. And I would rather fly on a plane that I think has a 95% chance of not having explosives on it rather than not get searched. I would rather, get searched basically before I go on a plane. Maybe that's un-American of me.
No, to me, it's the architecture. It's all the architecture that got built up around it. To me, it's all the architecture with DHS. It's all the kind of expectation of what people can and can't see in your personal life and what they're allowed to know and what they could dig into and kind of the name of defense of home. And I was going to ask you that. So I was going to ask you that because for me with the Patriot Act, effectively what I expect is that the NSA, now maybe this is conspiracy brained of me, but I did watch the Enemy of the State movie with Will Smith from 20 years ago, where he's running away from the NSA because an NSA or like a politician or an NSA member participates in a murder, and Will Smith gets like a CD-ROM that has video footage of the murder. And so he has to like run away from the NSA, and he meets up with Gene Hackman, and Gene Hackman is like a former NSA guy who has he has one computer that's hooked into a hard line and nothing else in his house is like technologically connected. And, the NSA like raids them, they blow up the building. And so they were talking about even in that video, which I think came out, or a movie that came out in like the 90s or the thousands, they were talking about like keyword searches. They were talking about AI to a degree, picking up on hotkeys and words so they can flag, cell phone communications and email communications and radio communications so they can tag it and then review it. And that movie, while being a movie, still kind of showed that effectively they showed the system that I think exists, which is you say a bunch of keywords, it gets flagged in the system, probably by a robot. It gets sent to a human for review. And then the human basically determines whether or not you're a shit poster, a normie who likes to pop off at the mouth, or if you're actually like a hardened criminal planning something hardcore. And if you're a hardened criminal planning something hardcore, then the NSA, FBI, ATF, whatever, they open up an investigation on you, and then they start pursuing like the legal process and extra legal process if you're overseas, the CIA. They start pursuing that process, and then you might be incarcerated or killed. That's my understanding of the system. So it kind of eliminates like the Fourth Amendment in a lot of degrees. But I guess my question to you is, in the post 9/11 era, how would you deal with terrorism? So I'd be honest, I don't know that it fundamentally changes from the way it was dealt with before. So I saw an interesting article on school security the other day it's related. It was kind of questioning whether or not the expense that we're spending on like high dollar tech solutions to school shootings and to school violence and everything else is actually generating any kind of ROI. Like, is it generating a return on investment that is it all worth it? I feel that terrorism is a similar problem. Like, you could spend an infinite amount of money, and I think you will generate a lot of leads, but the ability to translate those into like solutions, meaningful, like actual prevention of whatever the fuck is going to happen, I question whether or not that ROI is really worth it. And then when you get away from the financial side of it and turn to like the kind of freedom impingement side of it, I 100% question. I'm like, no, I think that the degree to which you have to impinge on people's or infringe on people's privacy and kind of personal lives to prevent terrorism in a meaningful way is absolutely not. That's a no-go for me. Like, I think I would rather occasional terrorism happen than have the complete blanket solution, which is we all give up all of our privacy. If that makes sense.
I guess yeah, no, this is actually really interesting because I kind of I guess I'm okay with the status quo, but I also don't value my privacy a lot. And I think it's because I was raised with Christian, super Christian parents, okay, like giga Christian parents. And so I don't even necessarily think that I believed in the concept of privacy. And to be vulgar, private time by yourself as a man, my conception of that as a teenager was like, God's watching me right now. I'm doing something wrong and God's still watching me. So I didn't really like believe in privacy. And so with that being said, that's obviously like a nefarious element of it. But I think the positive element is if you act the way in private, the way that you would want to be perceived in public, and if there's a consistency in your character, virtues, ethics, whatever, then if your private conduct comes to light, then it should be relatively easy to defend because you're conducting yourself in the way that you believe you should. And so that's where I feel like truth and just being true to yourself, but also an incredibly public person where you just, if somebody asks you a question, if it doesn't hurt somebody else, you answer it directly and truthfully. That's been like a huge asset in my life. Like there's a quote from Mark Twain that says, "I never lie. That way I don't have to remember anything." And I think that's one of the greatest quotes ever said.
There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, obviously, if your private life and your public life line up, you are less at risk. I mean, that's basically the essence of the entire security clearance process in America, right? Like, hey, if the two things match, mostly you're okay, and we'll trust you with handling secrets. If you're full of shit half the time and you publicly, we can prove that, then we're not going to trust you with any kind of secrecy. I mean, that's basically security clearance in a nutshell. But the only thing I'm going to disagree on is that just because I choose to live my life in such a way that mostly the private matches the public, and there's not a lot of like damning evidence I think you can bring to bear, I still don't think it's okay for people to come snoop around and find that shit out. And I don't think it's appropriate for people to go dig into other people's lives. I still like viscerally find that like not worth the benefits of increased security. Like, does that make sense? Okay. I just don't.
I mean, it makes sense. And by the way, I think that you probably have a more normal perspective than I do. I think that people do value their privacy. And here's the other thing. I'm not a sexual minority. I'm not a racial minority. I'm not a religious minority. And therefore, I don't feel like I've been mistreated by the state because I'm Muslim, or mistreated by the state because I'm Black, or mistreated by the state because, I'm homosexual or bisexual. And so I could understand how people who, within the current era, like being homosexual or bisexual isn't a crime, being Black isn't a crime, being Muslim isn't a crime, but people can treat you that way. They can treat you like a criminal for being these things. And so those kinds of people might value their privacy more, where they want to protect that true identity, but they want to protect it not because they think that their identity is wrong, but because they don't want to be villainized for private conduct. And so I can understand that I'm speaking about this from like a privileged position. I'm white and straight, and I was raised Christian, and I'm agnostic. So I don't have much to fear from the state on a daily basis.
Not today.
Not today.
Right? Dude,
maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll be declared an anti-fascist terrorist tomorrow. I have no idea.
I think 2020 changed that entire paradigm. And again, I know we were not really supposed to talk about movies today, but for me, 2020 changed the entire paradigm of, well, you're normal, so you got nothing to hide, so what are you worried about? And then all of a sudden, I think a reasonable percentage of people were like, oh shit, what I think or want to do is all of a sudden on the bad guy list, and that can turn quickly. And the more access to information the people in charge have, the more they can turn that quickly on you. And I would rather just disempower the state.
That is what I'm worried about. And I was just watching Ben Shapiro. I think there was another conservative commentator who was like, oh yeah, I think it's Matt Walsh. I hate Matt Walsh. He was like, oh yeah, it's a political crime that Antifa wasn't on the terror list faster. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, okay, Antifa, Black Bloc, the guys who show up in black clothes with a ski mask, with improvised weapons like a baseball bat and a shield, and they get into fights with what they think are fascists, but they beat up Proud Boys, they beat up conservatives, they beat up MAGA, but they also beat up normies. And so do I think that that should be criminalized? 100%, like incarcerate those people. But do I think that they should be declared a terrorist organization to the point that they are being treated like Al-Qaeda or ISIS? Absolutely fucking not. And that's where, for me, like the only reason why polycules in Seattle are not being sent to Guantanamo Bay right now is because the Trump administration doesn't want to get sued. That's the only reason why it's not happening. If they had the capacity to send black blockers to Guantanamo Bay, they would right now.
So it's interesting. The terrorist designation is a key one. And to me, that kind of traces right back to what we were talking about a little while ago, the Patriot Act, right? But once you realize that in the government's eyes, in a lot of ways, terrorism is simply access to money and authorities. Terrorism, if you label something as terrorist, it just gives you the ability to tap into the resources to deal with it. And it gives you the kind of tools legally to deal with it. And so the Patriot Act in a lot of ways allowed us to, I probably need to fact check myself and make sure that like the Patriot Act's where that started. But it's the first time I remember that sort of thing happening. And you watch it happen in the military a lot, where you're like, well, this organization is bad. If we call them terrorists, then we can do other things to them. That it's not like people are dumb. People are like, well, hell, great. Let's take that and let's apply it to these guys over here. And all of a sudden they're terrorists too. That terrorist designation has become kind of sloppy, but really it's just a tool to get access to more ways to kind of fuck people over. And like, I want to just walk all that back, right? Like criminals are criminals. If you're a criminal, they're going to arrest you, but we don't need any kind of special designation because it just gives people more tools to kind of fuck people's lives.
Well,
I don't like that.
That's another reason why I can't believe that libertarians aren't freaking out about the drone strikes of narco terrorist boats in the Caribbean, which, by the way, at least during the war on terror, we got briefs. You know, we were like, we took out Anwar al-Awlaki. Here's who he was. This is what he was doing. We took out al-Baghdadi. This is who he was. This is what he was doing. We took out whatever the guy who was the head of AQI. I forget his name, but that guy. We took out this guy. This is who he was. This is what he was doing. At least we got briefings. For the Trump administration, they're just drone striking, I think 2 or 3 at this point, random civilian vessels in the Caribbean, and they're like, don't worry about it, they're narco terrorists. And so half the country is like, cool. It's like, so Jesus.
So I teach ethics, and one of the ethical positions I take in the military is in opposition to the use of drones in warfare. One of the reasons I'm primarily opposed to the use of drones in warfare is the normalization effect. That like when you get used to the idea that little things flying around and shooting missiles at people is like a reasonable way to kill a person, then that shit expands. And the people who make and sell drones with missiles on them, hey, the war's over. You think they're going to close up shop and go retire to fucking Honolulu? Absolutely not. Are they going to find new markets for those armed drones? 100%. And so where are you going to shoot missiles? Where are you going to shoot them with terrorists? Right?
Marvel was a little bit on the nose, in my opinion, with their Hydra takes over the helicarriers that have like 20 millimeter cannons that can take out people based off of an AI algorithm before they become threats. It was a little like on the nose as an analogy for the drone program. But that's the problem with our media, is it keeps being so on the nose, and then reality keeps surpassing our cringe media. You know, like the prequel Star Wars, I'm supposed to hear Natalie Portman go, "This is how democracy dies," to thunderous applause. And I'm supposed to go, Bush would never do that. The Republicans would never do that. The Republic would never do that. This is a cringe analogy. George Lucas is an alarmist. That's what I'm supposed to be saying. I'm not supposed to be going like, oh shit, half the country is applauding for authoritarianism. Natalie Portman was right when she had the cringest line delivery 20 years ago.
Actually, 100% of the country is applauding for authoritarianism. They just do it in alternative or successive turns every 4 years, right? I mean, that's
right.
Yeah. It's like, so, oh no, everybody actually.
If you're more politically neutral, then you think that liberty is being chipped away, you know, at different angles by different sides. No, I mean that's relatively true. Yeah.
To circle it back to last week. Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose, right? Huh? The little bumper sticker from the old AVP.
What a baseline.
There we go. Oh, sad.
Well, Yeah, I probably want to talk a little bit more about this, and then we're actually gonna have to jump off because we got a copyright strike for live streaming, so we're gonna have to do this as a pre-recorded episode. But the good news is that chat won't be interrupting us, and they can check out the VODs. I'm gonna show them the YouTube channel though, and then we'll probably talk a little bit more, and then we'll jump off. But the guys, I'm gonna show this to you, okay? Valor Reacts does not have what I want on it yet. We have shot like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 episodes, something like that. Like 7 to 9 episodes. And I hate these thumbnails. I've told the back end people, Maximus Decimus Iridius needs to be like 10 times bigger. And these guys need to be 10 times bigger. And Dan and I need to be in the corner of the videos, smiling or laughing or pointing or doing the soy face. So basically, like, this isn't where I want it to be. But if you want to check out my scripted breakdown of the Achilles versus Hector duel from Troy, if you want to watch Dan and I reacting to Gladiator, within the next week or two, we should have like another 9 episodes going. And the thumbnail should be better, basically. But yeah, so go to Valor Reacts, sub to the channel if you're interested in the content that Dan and I do. However, YouTube did strike us last week for copyright. And so Dan and I are going to have to do this as a pre-recorded segment. But we did get a super chat from Starch Manning for $5. Stephen Miller, Pee Wee German. Love it. And by the way, Stephen Miller was accused of quoting Goebbels in his speech last week, but don't you dare use the fascist word. Wick Quipster says, bit behind, but how's Connor going to talk about how old and haggard Shapiro looks when Connor looks 5 to 10 years older than him, despite being 5 to 10 years younger than him? Because I accept this. Wick Quipster.
I blame the Marines. I blame the Marine Corps.
Dude, to quote Indiana Jones, it's not the years, it's the mileage. Okay. Spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, 4 years in law enforcement. I was on night shift for like 2 or 3 years in law enforcement. You know, all the gray in my beard and all the crow's feet and all the wrinkles in my forehead, I earned. Okay. Ben, on the other hand, looked like a butter smooth baby until last year. And now he looks like a Sith Lord whose like soul is being sucked out of him by like Lord Plagueis.
He probably has a stressful life. He probably has a fairly stressful life, right?
Oh, he's super stressed out. I'll tell you what. Yeah, absolutely.
I would probably age badly too if I had that kind of public life.
Yeah, grunt years are like dog years. That's what my police supervisor used to say. He was like, a patrol year is a dog year, so it ages you 7 years for every year that you're a patrolman. So yeah, yep. Mud Farmer says, is it painful to intellectualize this effing stupid of points? It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on him not understanding it. True. No, Mud Farmer, I'm with you. That was actually like the most frustrating part of that conversation, in my opinion, was effectively Ben Shapiro being like, Trump did this, and this, right? And it's like the most like tepid thing that would have happened under any Republican administration. And then he's like, and then I disagree with him with a whole bunch of other things, but I still think he's better than Kamala. And it's like, how? And I think he's lying to himself. I think he's lying to his audience. And I think that's part of the reason why he has wrinkles. But all right, a couple more reads, and then Dan and I are going to bounce. Sacred Snow says, hope everyone has a good day. And it was great to hear you weigh in, Dan. Yes, Dan's the man. Rachel P says, Connor is fine. Both meanings. Shapiro, no. All right. Well, Dan, did you want to talk any more about current events or politics or anything like that before we sign off and do our Valor React segment?
I mean, only if there's something screaming at you. I try not to watch the news too much, right? So I'm not as up on current events as you are.
Right.
Which is why I got this youthful face.
Nice, yeah, babyface special forces soldier. It's because he just lets like current events like just slide off of him like water off of a duck's back. But the what I was going to say is Dan wrote a book called It Is What It Was. And you can find that book. Dan is currently writing a children's book that he's going to shop around. He's going to try to get published, or he's going to self-publish. So basically in the Valor Reacts YouTube videos, we're going to start linking Dan's stuff, and I'll start plugging it on stream too when he comes and hangs out with us. So basically go buy Dan's book.
And easy to make a living as an author. Very much appreciate the support.
Yeah. All right. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to end the stream, but I'm going to keep you, Dan, and then we're going to do a pre-recorded segment.
Okay, that's perfect, man.
Anonymous Chatter says, ask Dan if we can get him on a few more political segments. That's saying that he's based as F. I'm going to leave that up to Dan. Dan is trying not to develop schizophrenia or develop wrinkles that are unnecessary. So I'm going to put that in Dan's corner.
I like the current like Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers sort of vibe. We just kind of slide in at the end of the conversation and participate a little. So we can go with that for now. We'll just see where it goes from there.
Like 10 to 20 minute brief wisdom so he doesn't develop latent schizophrenia before we go to the Valor Media segments. I think that's fair. But anyways, I parasocially love you guys. Thank you to all the donors. Real quick before we go, Starch Manning, Anonymous Chatter, Gen X with 5 gifted Valor Media Network memberships. Thank you. Colbius, thank you for that and asking about the Star Wars content. Anonymous Chatter with 20 Valor Media Network memberships. Insane donation. Anonymous Chatter again, Christian Vlaris again, Gen X again, Read Me 45, Fashion 40, and Silver. Thank you for your financial support today. I parasocially love you guys. I'll see you on Monday.